Jin, you are on mute.
So, Stefano, thanks for the signal, which is a classic, being on mute, starting a Zoom conference. So, I think you hear me now. Good morning and welcome. And yeah, thanks for taking the time. I can't pronounce Schweizerdeutsch well enough yet, so please bear with me that I have written it down. Kurizizeme, hope that was well enough or acceptable. And yeah, thanks for taking the time today for our Digital Summer Summit. And we hope that today's program will be relevant and interesting for you. And first, let me introduce myself. I'm Jin Choi. Seems to be a little bit better, but it's also probably not the best one. So in that light, yeah, I'm super glad that at least your soccer team is staying in the Europameisterschaft, which is really helpful after the disaster that we had yesterday against England, from Germany. So thanks for that and all the best. Schweiz, Switzerland, you can do this. And now let's start into the program. And before we dive into the agenda, first of all, thanks to our partners. And this one goes out to Horizon and SWA, the Schweizer Werbeauftraggeberverband, and to especially Beat Höhlimann and Roland Erler. We could not do this without your support. And yeah, this being said, let's go to the agenda. We have basically 4 program points for you from 9 o'clock to 12. I will start with that intro that I'm in midst of and also share some myths and facts about Facebook in Switzerland. Before we go into artificial intelligence and our first impact study on dynamic language optimization and optimization, that will hopefully be helpful for you, we share our newest insights in regard to that. And apparently seasonality and seasonal events, not only in the pandemic, but especially in the pandemic times, to be prepared for the biggest business impact apparently is very important. So we're going to explore that in the second session as of 10 a.m. in our CYBERWEEK seasonality special contribution. Before we go into a roundtable discussion on how Switzerland small businesses have pivoted back and re-emerged into business after the pandemic lockdown has started, and what kind of insights and learnings and opportunities they are given. Except the last session, everything will be held in English. So bear with us for that, and I hope this is all helpful for you. Now let's start with some facts and myths, and the team has asked me to delve into those topics, as apparently not everything on facts, but also on myths are kind of known in the Switzerland market, as we already as we basically have started to cooperate and reach out to you 2 years ago. Let's come to the fact 1. Facebook offers a mobile-first shopping experience with our shop solutions. That is absolutely correct, and we will actually go into this deeper in the roundtable session on small market businesses. I was super proud, actually, when we went into the pandemic last year, end of Q1, that Facebook pivoted very quickly into the new situation and pivoted back into an offering and product development with especially the pandemic situation in focus, coming up with a largely scalable shop solution that is available and accessible for everyone, for small businesses, mid-tier business, but also large businesses, to help really for economic recovery in those challenging times. And that will be actually tapped upon in the roundtable conversation, but also in the CYBERWEEK session. And then that is the session that we're going to start with after my introduction. We have the opportunity of dynamic language optimization, and this recognizes and automatically displays an ad in the user's preferred language. It sounds like a simple feature, but in a country like Switzerland, where basically 4 languages are getting spoken, this seems to be, or this is very helpful. Hence, this is the reason why we actually, put and invested energy into our dynamic language optimization impact study, where we'll today exclusively and for the first time share the outcomes. Then fact 3, that is also something that kind of, emerged and accelerated and pivoted in pandemic times. 3 million Swiss citizens participate in a Facebook group, and Facebook actually started out bringing individuals together, connecting networks of people, and we heavily focus since several years on bringing communities together in larger groups. So to extend the one-on-one communication to one-to-many conversations, but also group conversation and community conversation. And the Swiss love, like all people internationally, to really participate and engage in different groups of interest. That is fact 3 that I want to share with you, and that is one of the key messages that we have in regard to our priorities going forward in 2021. And now we come to some myth, and the myth number 1 is Facebook sells its user data to advertisers. Apparently, we don't sell or reveal any data from individual people or communities to advertisers, but Facebook allows advertisers to optimize their marketing and advertising for business purposes or at specific targeting on top of that, so that marketers can reach their audiences and create meaningful experiences and connections between services and brands to people and communities. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are incidents such as data scraping, which have unfortunately happened also in the recent past, but that is actually not selling data or not really, putting privacy into the first place, but this is criminal behavior by bad actors, which can happen as technology evolves. There are new opportunities for communities to connect, but also there is a kind of a head-to-head race also with those energies and bad actors that are reality, where we always have to, put privacy first, to give our best to safeguard our communities. But that is not Facebook selling data to advertisers. So I hope this is clarifying this myth. Myth number 2, people can't influence what ads are shown to them on Facebook. Actually, advertisers' controls have strongly evolved, especially over the recent years. And the driver for that is very simple, because people's experience on Facebook is the biggest value we have. So we need to protect that for long-term sustainability of the communities and our platforms. Also, when we go into the design process of our products, that is one of the reasons we have a straightforward privacy first approach. Yeah. And in regard to ads, you can hide or report any campaign with direct access in the ad or in your general settings. Yeah, it's basically, if you want 2 clicks from the ad to make it unseen, and it can't be easier, because basically the first click is opening up a menu, the second click is selecting that you don't want to see or report something. Yeah, I think we have made great progress there. Hope that also helps to dissolve the myth number 2, which brings us to myth number 3. Facebook listens on its users via the smartphone microphone. Yeah, this goes back actually also to the myth 2 part, where we always put privacy first, because that only allows for sustainable communities and also sustainable businesses from our perspective. And the answer is very clear. No, Facebook does not listen and does not use cell phone microphone to influence advertising in any way. Same applies to WhatsApp and Messenger, where you actively can opt into, send audio messages, for instance, but there's no exchange of calls between WhatsApp and Facebook for advertising purposes, or any listening or any AI getting used into listening for advertising purposes. Facebook always complies with applicable data protection laws in the European Union and cooperates with European data protection authorities, and in particular with the data protection authority responsible for us in Ireland. So I hope this helps dissolving the myth number 3. And now I'm stepping over into the official agenda point number 1. The power of artificial intelligence in context of dynamic language optimization. And there I'm handing over to Kim, who will present that along with Thierry Boule from Credit Suisse, who's supporting us here. Thank you for that. Paul and Renee from Marketing Science Facebook. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Jin, for the intro. And also from my side, great to see such a huge amount of people here for our Swiss Digital Summer Day. Super excited to have you for the first session. So I would say, let's directly kick us off here. And I'll quickly share my screen. So, perfect. Warm welcome again to the first session of our Swiss Digital Summer Day. And as Jin already said, we will talk about in the first session the power of AI and share some interesting results from our first Swiss dynamic language optimization impact study. We're super excited having you, and while it will first be us talking for a while, please use the Q&A function that you see on the bottom to share any kind of questions you have on the presentations, on the myths and facts that were presented, because at the end of every session, we have a couple of minutes where we will answer those and then follow up afterwards. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kim, and as Client Solutions Manager working with our largest clients in this wonderful country. And I'm joined today for the first part of the session by my colleague Renee. Renee, great to have you as well, and happy if you quickly want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Kim. Hi, everyone. I'm Renee. I'm a marketing science partner for the Swiss market and really excited to be here. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Handing it back to you, Kim.
Great. Thank you, Renee. And before we dive into the results of the study and talk about the future of measurement, which is your part, and then have the interview with Thierry from Credit Suisse, I'd like to start with sharing why we believe the role of AI is so critical for every marketeer out there. And I don't think there's a better picture to exemplify what AI and machine learning is able to do than the picture what you see here. And this is a picture from the 5-game Go match between Lee Sedol, which is an 18-time world champion, and AlphaGo, which is a computer Go program, which is a machine. And for those of you who don't know Go, Go is a very complex board game that requires a lot of creative and strategic thinking, and it's considered significantly more difficult than chess. And in the above picture, you see Lee's face in the second match they had against the machine, when the machine in move 37 made this very unusual move, and Lee couldn't really understand why the machine made this move. And in the end, despite the fact that experts in the field of AI thought that AI was 10 years away from winning a match against a top Go player, AlphaGo, the machine in this case, won all but the 4th game. So I'm showing you this because I think this is a great example that exemplifies how far the power of AI has gone already. And we know that automation and AI also matters for driving performance and driving scale for your business. Because particularly right now, we're in this new era of prediction where it's really about predicting what the user will do next. And this is where artificial intelligence and machine learning can really come into play handy. When looking at our Facebook platform and Facebook family of apps, there are 2 main AI-powered solutions which can bring significant value to our partners. So firstly, what you see here on the left side, our dynamic language optimization solution really helps addressing users in their preferred languages. And secondly, we have campaign budget optimization that automatically allocates the budget to those ad sets which are likely to deliver the best business outcomes. And this is particularly relevant, those 2 solutions, for Switzerland with, as Jin already said, if multi-language and multi-diverse population. Localizing your marketing campaigns is incredibly important because it makes customers just feel more comfortable. And in fact, 55% of people say that they like ads on social media to be reflective of their country local culture in terms of language, but in terms of people that are being shown as well. While we won't be covering this in today's presentation, we know that some of you that are listening are very much focused also on the export business. And here we just wanted to point out that we've already done an EMEA-wide meta study where we saw that when leveraging some AI-powered export solutions, the campaign performance can also be significantly improved. So this is something to keep in mind when you're particularly export focused. But for today, let's really double down on Switzerland. And for our meta study, we found two main challenges in Switzerland. Firstly, we saw that there is a lack of language automation. So users were addressed in suboptimal languages. Secondly, there's a big uncertainty about the right budget allocation across languages. So imagine if you're a company that is addressing the whole Swiss population, it's really about the question, how much budget should you actually allocate to each individual language? So to tackle those two challenges, the two different solutions come into play. So for the first challenge of language automation, this is where dynamic language optimization is super important. For those of you who are not familiar with the solution, this is how the solution works. So basically, you as an advertiser provide us with the different campaign assets in different languages. And you see here on the left side an example from Credit Suisse with different assets from CSX in British, in French, in Italian, as well as in German. And then what we do is that basically, first of all, we look into what language the user is leveraging and using Facebook and Instagram in. And then we match this language. But then there might be cases where the user is using Facebook and Instagram in a different language. Let's take Serbian as an example. And then it's really where the magic comes into play, because we then sort the languages in the ads based on the user's language model. So we look at different signals, such as what content has that user produced, what content has that user consumed, where is that user located, and based on that, we will have additional signals and additional clues, and then can dynamically showcase the right language to the user. If, again, there is no language that is matching the user, then we will just fall back to the default language specified for the ad. For the second challenge on how to allocate your budget best across the different languages, this is where campaign budget optimization comes in really handy. So on the left side, without campaign budget optimization, you will see that you have to manually allocate budget to the individual language per ad set. Whereas with campaign budget optimization, you basically set the budget at the campaigns level, and our AI-powered systems will allocate the budget to those languages where you'll reach the best results. So I hope you get a good understanding on what were the two main challenges that we saw in Switzerland, which is the language automation as well as the budget allocation across languages. And you also have a good understanding on how the two solutions, dynamic language optimization as well as campaign budget optimization, work, because this will be super important for the results of the study. And I guess you think they sound good in theory, don't they? So, well, we put them to a test in Switzerland. And with that, I'm handing over to Renee to talk about the research and about the results from our meta study. Over to you, Renee.
So sorry, again, a little muting problem here. So hey everyone, and thanks for that, Kim. Yeah, so yeah, it let us think about two different hypotheses or questions, right? So the first being, can we help Swiss-based businesses efficiently scale their activity through adopting our AI-powered solutions? You know, so for example, dynamic language optimization and as well campaign budget optimizations are the ones that we're thinking about here. And secondly, it's more specific to as well dynamic language optimization. So how do they perform when compared to a business as usual structure? So let's have a closer look. So what we have done is that we have evaluated for these kind of partners, as you can see at the right-hand side. So thank you very much for participating in the study. We have actually had conversion lift studies. And next to that, we have added as well extra studies to that as well. So in total, we are evaluating 13 studies that have been running across the Swiss market to test if dynamic language optimization can deliver increments in regards to purchases. So with that, let's have a little look into the methodology as well as, of course, afterwards, the outcomes and the findings of the study. But just to make sure that everyone is at the same page, that we know what we're talking about when we're talking about conversion lift. I just thought it would be helpful to just put it kind of on the slide here as well. So when we're talking about a conversion lift test and how we do that, it's actually a 5-step approach. So first of all, of course, you as an advertiser is going to identify a business objective and, of course, the audience that you would like to target, right? This is kind of the first thing that's going to happen. The second step here is that Facebook then will, of course, randomize and split the audience into 2 groups, as you can see here, into a test and a control group. The next step is, of course, you're just going to run your campaign. You're going to run your advertisements across the Facebook families of app and services. And ads will be, of course, delivered to the test group because they're in a test group, but the control group will not be served any ad whatsoever. Now I hear you thinking, okay, but like, how do we know who's in the control group then and how to measure this? So actually, what happens in the backend is that both the test and the control group needs to actually win the auction, and then they're eligible to kind of see that ad impression. And if you're in a control group, instead of that you're going to see that creative, that ad, you're actually being flagged in the backend as this person is in the control group for this campaign and has won the auction. Hence, we need to track these conversions from these people within the lift study as well. So this is happening kind of in this step that you see here, and you pass kind of the conversion data to Facebook through kind of the pixel or the SDK copy, and then we actually calculate the lift. So when we're talking about lift, is actually the difference between a test and a control group, because the only difference between those two are that the test group is going to see Facebook ads, the others, the control group doesn't. So also the increments here can be related back directly to Facebook's activities there. And as you saw before as well, we also have a multi-cell conversion lift methodology. So this is what we use kind of with those 5 participants, as you saw in the first slide that I presented. It's really about the same kind of methodology. It's the same methodology and the same approach as the slide I showed you before. The only difference here is that you don't have 1 test group, you actually have 2 test groups. So we've been running those kind of A/B tests, or you can call it A/B tests on steroids, because both will have a control group. And one is having a business as usual approach, just kind of the campaign, how you would buy it in like any other normal day. And in the other campaign, in the task group, we actually have dynamic language optimization enabled. So I hope that was clear. And with that, I am going to walk you through the exciting stuff of my session today. At least I think it's really exciting because it's the outcomes. So this is really the results. What does it deliver for your business? So let's kick it off with campaign budget optimization. So we again had 10 different studies that we're going to have playing a role in here. So 10 studies have been analyzed for this that use campaign budget optimization. And we saw a median lift of 32.3% on purchases for every statistical significant study. So that means that the confidence is 90% or greater, that if we would rerun the same experiment, that we would get the same or similar results. Unfortunately, that's never possible. We can never rerun the exact same study because the circumstances will change. But of course, like this is why we're having kind of the confidence levels in here, that we're really sure that these results are really valid. And on the right-hand side, you can just see kind of the distribution here. So, and from the Stat6 studies, the kind of the range was between kind of the 5 and the 77%, as you can see here. An average lift is around 15% when we're looking at all studies in total. So if we not just take a look at only that 6 studies, so the 90% confidence and above, we actually see an average lift of 15%. So it's really a massive uplift numbers. To be fair, these are numbers that we normally don't see that often. So this is really great to see, and it really proves that it's a really an effective way to plan your campaigns. And then as well for dynamic language optimization, we saw a median lift of purchases of 7.1% here for the Stat6 only studies, and an average lift of 10% if we're going to have a look at all of the studies combined. And also the range here, as you can see, is again as well between kind of that 5 and 77%. So it's really, really similar to kind of the campaign budget optimization. You just see kind of little number changes, you know, like with kind of the median when you're going to go calculate those results. But in essence, they both perform really, really, really well. And of course, you have a different nature of the campaigns running, right? So it's not completely comparable because in the dynamic language optimization, there are 10 different studies in there. Then you compare it to the campaign budget optimization, which means still kind of different kind of client base, for example, as well as different targeting. So it's not kind of a multi-cell approach completely here. But it at least shows you that as well, dynamic language optimization really can drive great lift as well. So let's go into a little client spotlight because that always says more than just some stats and some graphs on a slide. Still, you're going to see some graphs on the next slide, but I think it's a very interesting finding that we did is that this is one of the multi-cell cases that we had. So we compared dynamic language optimization compared to manual optimization. And when I'm talking about manual optimization here, I'm talking about 3 different campaigns per language, right? So, and with dynamic language optimization, you have to do one campaign and our algorithm or AI is actually going to decide upon who's going to get what language delivered. So that's kind of the difference here, dynamic language optimization versus that manual optimization here. And we actually saw that the dynamic language optimization outperformed the manual planning in this case by 11.4 percentage points. So this is absolutely a massive improvement. And of course, don't forget as well that it just doesn't only work better in terms of incrementality, so driving incremental lift in purchases, but we also noticed that it decreases the cost of the performance of around 13% when it comes to cost per action, in this case, cost per purchases. So next to kind of higher lift, you also see that it actually decreases the cost when you have kind of the media figures. But don't forget that you also have less time spent on campaign setup because instead of 3, you need to have 1, and as well as monitoring campaigns, optimizing the campaigns, and as well reporting on the campaigns. So this is kind of an additional benefit of running things through our AI, which I think is worthwhile noting as well. So when we look at kind of those slides, just to sum it up a little bit, like AI planning really, really works, whether it's CBO, campaign budget optimization, or DLO, dynamic language optimization, both actually show very strong performance on driving lift in purchases. And on top of that, dynamic language optimization also allows for that simplification here, because one campaign can reach, of course, a minimum of those 3 regions with 4 languages, which delivers, of course, resource efficiency gains, as well as those decrease in CPAs. And as we just saw in the last slide, is that dynamic language optimization can really outperform manual planning because the client spotlight showed this to us. And of course, this is something that we would love to also test with each and every one of you, both for kind of dynamic language optimization, as well as campaign budget optimization, to see what works best for you, so we can make Facebook work harder for you. So as well, if you're interested in any of those tests or maybe other tests to improve your buying strategies or media strategy, as well as creatives, please reach out to us because we're always happy to support here. And then the last thing here that you shouldn't forget is that AI-powered solutions also really work well in a cross-border context, as well briefly mentioned by Kim. So you can use kind of that dynamic language optimization, not just for within Switzerland, but you can also use it for your cross-border activities. So it goes one step further. And as also shown by Kim, we're going to talk a little bit about the future as well, because you probably have noticed that the ads ecosystem and measurement thereof is really changing and evolving. So before I also hand it over to Paul later, I think it would be good to just stand still for a few slides to really talk about what do we actually mean when we're talking about the ecosystems changing and measurement is changing. So the first thing here is that, of course, the change in data privacy protection, which is regulated by governments. So more and more people are expecting protection when it comes to data privacy. And more governments are also listening to it and actually putting laws in place. So an example here is the GDPR that we are all very much aware of. Next to that as well, companies are changing their guidelines. So on top of those regulations, we also have companies changing their guidelines. I think this is also just with the aim to put more control back into the user's hands. And in some cases, these changes have had a massive impact on long-term advertising mechanisms as well as measurements. Such as well third-party cookies, for example, and also kind of IDs of mobile devices. So just think about the recent update of Apple. It has also been in the press, of course, that Google, with Google Chrome, is going to go in the same direction. But luckily, they postponed kind of this for the next couple of years, which gives us a little bit more breathing time to get ready, because they also acknowledged that those changes are happening quite quickly, quite rapidly. And not everyone is already ready for this change. So they decided to actually postpone it for a little while. So what does that mean? That actually companies, advertisers, platforms, including us, of course, we have to rethink about how do we reach people and how do we really measure the impact of marketing in the future. So what do we think the future will look like? Let's take a look at two different trends we're actually seeing. The first one is aggregation. So this is something that just started. And what it actually means is that we are moving away from analyzing individual touch points from one person. So really for the consumer journey, for example, to looking at the whole group or cohort or bucket of users that are sharing similar behaviors and bucket them, and actually measure it on an aggregation level of that bucket. So we're moving away from a single user signal to a group of users signals. So, because earlier, you were able to measure a user individually through cross-site, cross-channel, and all these things that will absolutely change. Because we need to have user consent today, and at the same time, we also have the decline of the signals, so the third-party cookies, for example. So there will no longer really be user-level signals. We still have some today, but looking at the trend of the industry, also with Chrome coming up, we will get less and less individual-based signals. So in the future, aggregated methods are really required. So aggregated privacy-first measurement. And it's then rather kind of the behavior of user groups of those cohorts that is going to be measured. It's important to also stand still a little bit that it's an industry-wide signal shift, right? We are always talking about losses of signals and stuff, but in essence, we are just shifting from one approach to another. One thing that is going to have massive impact, as you might already have read between the lines here, when we're talking about that we're moving away from really single user-based data to aggregation is, of course, one of the most impacted solutions will be attribution solutions. And it's kind of a bittersweet story because not too long ago, we and probably a lot of others have been talking publicly around the potential issues advertisers can face when they're just focusing, for example, on last click models because you're missing out on so much data, right? And now with that less data available, we seem to be back all the way where many of us really don't want to be at. And the future of attribution models will be a modeled one. And potentially you need to rely on more of the publishing reporting versus kind of your in-house solution if you have this. And we also assume that the calibration part, so understanding how accurate your attribution model is going to be more and more important because you need to validate your attribution system. And we talked about those lift tests before. So the conversion lift test, when I'm talking about lift test, a conversion lift, because brand lift is not impacted because it's polling. So it is not relying on any signals. It's on our platform. So that's great. But of course, it's the kind of lift and incrementality. We see that as the gold standard. And there's really a really strong desire here to keep as well these solutions alive. However, we need to as well adapt those because most of them are not built with that privacy in mind, right? Because it's still using a single user signal and not that aggregation that we talked about. So we are really committed to do our part on that end. And the next iteration of a conversion lift solution is being built right now. So make sure that we are ready for that future. And of course, what we can say so far is that we will most likely have two solutions. One is based on CAPI, so conversion lift API. And the second one is more complex and will require quite some engineering work. So it's really privacy first kind of conversion lift. But the first one is one that is conversion API based lift. We will enable that. So it will make sure that incrementality will remain that gold standard, and we will be able to still run lift tests, but really still have a good look at attribution. The second one that I would like to stand still with for a little bit is as well kind of modeling. So we actually see that we're expecting the kind of the industry to shift to much more modeling. Modeling has been around for a long time. There are different kinds of versions of modeling, and I will show you a few of those in the next slide. But this is one of the things that we think is going to be really future-proof as well. So it's really from deterministic counting, how we call it, so from counting impressions to really model that. And this is already a reality for most of our partners. So when we're talking about modeling, there are different things which you can have a look at. So one is, for example, partner measurement. So for example, panel-based measurement with Kantar or GfK or Nielsen, for example. These are kind of the measurement techniques that can be in place here. You can do some geo-based testing and as well MMM. And with MMM, I think this is a very big shift that we're seeing, that more and more advertisers are actually going to go into marketing mix modeling, both brand advertisers as well as direct response. This is something that we can help you guys with as well, because starting up a marketing mix modeling from scratch is a very long process. So one thing that I would like to put your attention to is that we are actually having an open source code for this, which is called Robin. So that you can actually use as kind of the code and build your MMM models in just a few clicks, because we're going to have a user-friendly interface for this, so you don't have to do the coding on your end anymore. So let's break it down. So the first of the thing is the future will be private, as said before. So it's really driven by the increased demand of the user privacy as well as the regulation. Right? So people want to have more control. People want to have their data protected. And this is something that governments as well as companies such as Apple and Google are adhering to. And as well kind of make sure that the privacy first future is now get ready, because it's already happening. iOS is already launched. And make sure that you use privacy first measurement solutions and have everything for the infrastructure in place there. So thinking about conversions API here. Second one is aggregation and modeling. We're going to move away from that single person cookie or signal that we get to really aggregation of buckets, which we will do probably in the conversion lift solution, as well as modeling. So for example, working with a third-party provider for panel-based measurement, if you're, for example, an fast-moving consumer goods client, or marketing mix modeling, because they are really signal resilient ways and how to measure cross-channel the impact of your media on both kind of brand as well as sales outcomes. And then the last one, incrementality. So methodologies will, of course, evolve. We are working on new solutions. I bet Google is working on other solutions, and all of our partners are. And of course, incrementality measurement of true value is here to stay. And with that, I will be handing it over to Paul for the interview with Thierry from Credit Suisse.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Thierry. Thanks so much, René. And just one note much as well for everyone to the questions that we're receiving. So we'll make sure to answer them right after the interview with Thierry. And with this, I will hand over then back to René and Kim to really answer your questions. But before that, a warm welcome to Thierry. Really excited to have you with us. Thierry is at Credit Suisse, the global head of digital and data marketing. You saw as well, Credit Suisse participated in this DLO study, The Power of AI. So we thought it's really interesting to actually have him with us. And before we go to some more questions, I thought it's interesting to get to know you, Thierry, a little bit. So we'll start with a few speed questions. so that the audience and all the participants can get to know you. So the first one is digital banking or retail banking?
Good morning. Yeah, quite obviously digital banking.
Okay, I was expecting that. As a financial service provider, what is better, buying a house or renting these days in Switzerland?
Oh, that's a very difficult one. I'm working in marketing, right? Not in the core function of the bank. I'm more the renter, I would say.
Okay. Thank you.
Flexible.
Instagram or Facebook?
Nowadays, Instagram.
Instagram, great. And then two surprise ones: football or ice hockey?
I'm currently obviously football, but actually, if I would count the number of games I've watched live, I would say I was more attending ice hockey games.
Okay, I see. Well, thank you for that. Maybe it gives a bit of a flavor, into you as a person. So would like to then switch over more on the theme of today and ask overall, so there's a huge disruption going on in the banking world. So would love to hear, like, as you as Credit Suisse as a global leader, which opportunities you see in the digital disruption and how you go about it.
Yeah, I think we did a last step last year with the launch of the new CSX banking offer. To find we finally offered the solution which is ideal for digital savvy private clients who want to deal with us in a digital way. We did a large step forward while still offering the personal advice and service of the traditional bank we did for ages now. And we also focused on the development of the branch concept at the Europaallee, close to the main station. We established a new branch concept, more looking into things like co-working space, multimedia, group room, and regular events about financial topics. And I think that's a bit how the banking world is developing now to get more relevant for clients in the upcoming digital space. And while CSX is obviously focusing on private clients, I see a similar development for corporates, where we have invented many cool new digital features for corporate bank clients, as well as interesting digital opportunities in the area of invest and mortgage, where we're a bit more far from the CSX end user offer, but still reaching out to clients, to wealthy clients on digital channels.
That's fascinating. Really, a lot of innovative projects that are already launched or on the line as well. I think you mentioned CSX. Whoever watches the Euro at the moment sees a lot of the campaign, which maybe is as well as a segue into overall. We talked, or Kim and René presented as well, the power of AI and automation. So we would love to maybe hear from you how, as a marketing organization that you're leading, you approach automation in general, or what you think about it.
Automation is definitely key for my marketing approach and the approach we have at Credit Suisse in the development of our ad stack and advertising landscape. I mean, in what happened in the last few years was amazing in our industries, in the marketing industry, and it becomes more and more complex, but also more and more interesting. What you see now is that the efficient management of campaigns is nowadays only possible if we leverage the possibilities of automation. So while in the past you really were able to define the ideal ad for a small target group with a specific message, I mean, nowadays you have that many signals you can use that it gets more and more difficult to make that without the advantage of automation. And I think automation can therefore be an important layer to not just lower the costs, but also to cope with the complexity and to really support the data-driven development of marketing.
A few really interesting points on efficiency, but as well on resource gains, if I understand you right. That's an important part of automation as well, to get more done with less people resources in a way. Really great insight. As well, maybe interesting for the audience, you did participate in the study. So why do you think is dynamic language optimization, at least as a hypothesis to test, was that interesting for you and your team?
Yeah, I mean, for the past few years, it always has been a discussion, especially in Switzerland, how we can target the language of the clients in the right way. And in the past, a lot of was done obviously quite manually. So the setup of the campaign in one language, and then duplicating it to the other languages, and I think we still had. I mean, there was a development on the market already in the past to kind of facilitate that, make it a bit more possible to translate ad copies within the tool and so on and so on. But then it got a bit more difficult because the landing page might be different as well. And so there was never a really good solution. And in the past, often the ad was matched on the system of the browser, on the language of the browser, the language of the system, whatever. And I was always believing that, I mean, from my own expertise, that the language of the ad should match the language of the content around the ad. And I think there the automation of the language selection looked very amazing, and I think that's a way. It was definitely an interesting case to test and learn and see whether the new option would be more efficient and more performant than the old setup.
Great, thanks so much. And really interesting as well to hear your test and learn approach, hypothesis based, and keep learning as an organization. I think that's definitely something that I would just happily encourage everyone who's listening this. One of the beauty of Facebook tools is that really you can test efficiencies and the impact of many different strategies and compare and learn. So you talked about why you participated. Maybe as a final question, could you as well share some of the learnings and that you took out, and maybe anything that then changed moving forward after this results that you analyzed with your team, if you changed anything to what you've done before?
Yeah, obviously the results were quite promising, and we saw the development very positive. First, because the cost per conversion decreased, so the campaign was more effective. More important on our side was that the effort to define the set up the campaigns was extremely efficient. So we saved some time as well. And on that side, we definitely can see a positive result. The only thing we were a bit discussing in the team, and that's actually a discussion which is ongoing for quite a while, is the risk from a strategic marketing strategic perspective, that quite obviously the risk of such an optimization is that the campaign might have a low reach in certain areas, which is especially for I mean the Italian, specifically the Italian part of Switzerland, Ticino. You might face a limited reach in those regions, and we're ongoingly discussing how that should be reflected in the campaign strategy and the setup of the campaigns, because quite obviously it is important for us as a Swiss bank to not only be present in the most performant market, but also in being the bank for the whole country.
Thanks so much. I think that's really great insights, and I think they will resonate with many of the participants. As you say, some of the smaller language regions. A great question. So we're almost done. I have one last question just to close off, to just ask about your football expertise and your bet on who will win the Euro this year.
Yeah, that's a really, really difficult question, because I somehow don't want to compromise the chances of the Swiss team. Now, if I look at the tableaus, it looks I'm quite optimistic that on the other side, England will make it to the final after yesterday evening, and on this side, no clue, but I'm looking definitely much forward to Friday and hope that Switzerland will get the performance they showed this week. I think that was quite amazing, and if they manage to bring that to the pitch again, the road to the championship now is probably as good as it never was. So let's see how it proceeds. But at the end, I'm really not sure who's gonna win. Let's see. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks so much. Hop Schwyz, obviously. Thierry, thanks so much for joining us, for sharing with all the participants some of the insights and a bit of a flavor into how you think at Credit Suisse about automation and digital disruption in general. So with this, I'll hand back to Kim and René to take the questions that the participants asked. And thanks again, Thierry, and we'll speak soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Thierry. Thank you so much, Paul. Great interview. And as mentioned, we'll now go into the Q&A because you're a very engaged group. We got quite a lot of questions. So I'm super happy to tackle some of those, and I'll try to be as quick as possible before handing over to René for some more measurement-related questions. So there were 3 questions around our dynamic language optimization solution, which I'm quickly happy to give some feedback on. So the first question was from Marco, who asked, I have my Facebook app in English, but I mainly create and engage with German content. Would I be served an English ad or a German one in this case? And here, if you're using dynamic language optimization, which based on the study we recommend in most cases, the priority number 1 is always the Facebook app. So if you're using the Facebook app in English, we would first, if the assets that have been provided are in English, serve the ad in English. If no English assets are provided, but German assets are provided, we would go from prior 1, which is the Facebook Instagram interface language, to prior 2, where we would actually look into the content that you're consuming, and we would see that you are consuming and commenting in German, and then we would show the German assets. So I hope that clarifies that a little bit. The second question goes in a similar direction. So the question is, as a Swiss German mobile user, I often get sponsored ads in French, even though my device is set to German. As much as I love French as a language, this does impact the user experience in a negative way, and I'm concerned for our clients. However, and how is this possible if you have those 3 steps that we showed with dynamic language optimization, that user is still being shown ads in French, despite the fact that he's using Facebook in German? So there are a couple of possible explanations here. So explanation 1 would be that the client is not using DLO. Maybe he just forget narrowing down the languages on the ad level and is just showing French assets. And the second option would be that the client is using dynamic language optimization, but has just not added French as any of the relevant languages, and therefore that language will not be shown. And as a user, really the best thing to do here is that when you see such an ad which is not relevant to you because it's not in the language that you're looking for, is that you can, I think it's on the top right side, click on the ad and basically do an X out, where you basically give negative feedback to the ad. And that's something then what we will take into account from our end. And if one ad, for example, receives a lot of different X outs, we will then limit the delivery of that ad. So that's really what we would recommend to do here. And finally, question on this one, just in terms of how to set up the dynamic language optimization, if on the ad set level, you still have to select languages. So here, basically, on the ad set level, you can just basically select all languages, and then you will, on the ad level with the language optimization, define the different languages that you dynamically want to show to the user. And we can follow up with some help center article that describes that in a little bit more detail. With that, those were the questions on dynamic language optimization, and I hand over to Renee because there was one question related to measurement.
Yes, thank you very, very much. So there was a question from Diana around when running a conversion lift study, how do we make sure that the measurement is reliable? Because in the end, a lot of conversions are trigger based. And if you don't deliver a trigger as advertising, conversions would of course be lower in a control group. And thank you very much for that question. And that's exactly what we want to do with kind of measurement, because what we're doing with conversion lift is actually measuring the impact of the advertising. So in order to really be able to assess this, we need to make sure that we have a control group that is not exposed to any of those ads versus a group that is exposed to ads, so we can actually see what the difference is, and that can be contributed back to those ads. And of course, it's always great to see that, of course, the conversions is going to be lower in a control group because they got less triggers. But don't forget, you also have other media running most of the time, right? So here we're only taking a look at the incremental effect of Facebook advertising. So this is what the study can help you to answer. It's just like, what does Facebook bring in terms of incremental revenue, for example, or incremental purchases? And that's kind of the key thing, because you're going to be always having a baseline. This is why we're talking about kind of the control group, because you're always going to have people that are going to buy products already without seeing an ad. So this is what we're trying to mitigate with that control group as well. So in short, we need to have, of course, the test and the control group, and we're only going to go have a look at the effect of advertising, which of course, hopefully will trigger to get more conversions. I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Renee. And I saw there were a couple of follow-up questions. Thanks for your great engagement, and we'll make sure to answer them directly, as now we're already heading over to the second session. So huge thank you for attending the first session on the power of AI, and we would love to get your feedback on the session. So you can take the next few minutes until in probably 3 minutes, the second session will start, to just share your feedback with us. It will be super helpful for all the upcoming events. And with that, yeah, thanks so much for attending the first session. It was a pleasure, and we're looking forward to having you for session 2 and session 3 now. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody, to Facebook's Swiss Digital Summer Day, and grüezi miteinander from my end. And after all the football talk, I gotta say I'm super excited for Friday. I just want to remind everybody that we beat Spain before. We can do it. So hopes are super high. But for this session, my name is Silvano Sen, and I'm a client partner at Facebook Switzerland. And in this function, I'm consulting our largest fashion, luxury, and e-commerce clients on how to grow their business with Facebook's family of apps and services. Thank you so much for tuning in the second session where we're looking to prepare you for this year's CYBERWEEK as well as the festive holiday season. That's a little bit about me. Now over to my colleague Alice. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alice. I work as an agency solutions manager at Facebook and work with the biggest agencies in Switzerland as well as in Germany. I will take over for the second part of the presentation. So right back to you, Silvano, and see you in a bit.
Super, thanks, Alice. See you later. So yeah, if you have any questions, and I saw there was some great engagement already, please keep them coming directly in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as possible in the end of the segment. But now let's jump right into the content. Right, here we go. So welcome again to the great festive comeback, or in other words, prepare for CYBERWEEK and the festive holiday. So here today to help you plan for this year's holiday season. But before we're getting into the insights and look forward to this year's holiday season, I want you to mentally go back to last year. For many of us, celebrations looked very different to usual. Switzerland was struggling with the second wave of COVID, and second half of December, we had the lockdown where we couldn't get into restaurants and pretty much anything that we like to do anymore. So one could almost say that, Christmas 2020 or almost the whole year of 2020 was a cancelled time. However, the numbers we will show you from research highlights hope and optimism while we plan the holiday season 2021. We had all these shifts and digital acceleration driven by the pandemic, shifting how consumers use technology and interact with businesses and brands. So I would say it's a holiday season full of possibilities, and we're here to talk to you about the great festive comeback. So let's jump right into. So how can you secure this great comeback for your brand or your business? And we will talk through two key elements. One is holiday resilience. We're seeing that there's a lot of positive sentiment, there's financial stability and opportunities, as well as just endless possibilities given the levels of digital acceleration that we experienced. And then there are 5 key steps that we would like to convey to secure a Christmas comeback or a holiday comeback for your brand and business. Let's start off with the first part. And I want to start off with the latest study from the Swiss SECO on the consumer sentiment that we've seen, comparing it to Q2 2020 and Q2 this year, that we've seen that the sentiment has risen back to pre-crisis levels. So increased by 32 points. So the sentiment is obviously much more positive than it was last year. Also like to point out that the likelihood of households making major purchases is also strongly on the rise again. And this positivity also comes a lot from obviously the momentum that we have. Economies, Swiss economy has reopened. Now even for things like nightclubs, so it's looking pretty good for the festive season. And then many people, just like myself, we just got our second vaccine, which is definitely a big contributor to the confidence and optimism. And then another point I already mentioned is this financial security or financial stability. And we've seen a big shift of 18 points compared to last year when it comes to the financial optimism of people in Switzerland. And then also a tremendous improvement when it comes to the spending intentions. They were down to minus 49%, and now improved to minus 13%, 13 points rather, which is a 36 points improvement. So tremendous to see how everything went back into a very positive direction. Interesting to see, and here we're looking at a study from PwC on the consumer sentiment, what people are intending to spend their money on. And PwC is doing this study for the last 13 years, every year. And we've seen that things like eating out are on top of the list. I can definitely relate, can't wait, to have the meals around Christmas with family and friends in restaurants and in nice places. Obviously going on holidays, something people are obviously still a little bit unsure about right now, but they're looking to increase spends on that a lot in the next 12 months. Going out, spending it on fashion, groceries, and health and well-being are next on the list. So these are all things that we haven't had before, and you probably heard the word unprecedented a lot when it comes to 2020. And once again, also when we look at stats like this. Shifting over to a couple of stats when it comes to purchase behavior. So Statista tells us that we've seen a 27% growth year on year when it comes to e-commerce in Switzerland. And from a study from Wonderman Thompson on e-commerce, I saw that a lot of people that came new to this shopping behavior were also, people that haven't shopped like this before. And from our study, which we'll reference a lot here, the Facebook seasonal holiday study, we've seen that 73% are interested in trying new and different ways of shopping. So a lot of people, experienced it for the first time, and then other generations and target groups or age groups rather, they increase their shopping behavior when it comes to e-commerce tremendously. Also interesting to see a stat here from the Hochschule St. Gallen, 40% try to avoid retail stores and prefer home delivery. So obviously, once again, makes it important to have a good strategy in mind when it comes to reaching these people and these target groups as well. And what I found really interesting is this stat here. We compared the average time spent per day on media, and then we kind of put it in a grid with people who said that they discover ideas or browse for inspiration on these platforms. So we have print, radio, and TV all below 30% when it comes to discovery. And then social media and mobile already really high on the media spent, on the time spent. But then when it comes to this discovery aspect, it's definitely where people are looking to be inspired and to discover new brands and services. So very, very interesting. And we combined here, the global web index with our Facebook seasonal holiday study to get these numbers. Moving on to, what does discovery? So discovery really drives shopping spontaneity. This is 100% true for myself when I think about the holiday season, and I get inspired by brands and services on platforms like Facebook and Instagram. I see things I would have never thought about, ideas for gifting for family and friends, but also maybe for myself. And 90% of the holiday shoppers in EMEA who discover on Facebook platforms made a spontaneous discovery while shopping online. So that's, the platforms are super good for exactly this use case. And so you can also make sure to be there and reach people while they're not necessarily looking for anything, but really are kind of open to be inspired and to discover new things. Another point I would like to mention is this feel of the sense of belonging and connection that our platforms are facilitating. I think for me, this is most visible, or I have the strongest feeling when I see, how high the usage of WhatsApp is in Switzerland and how connected we are to the groups. Many people probably know the family chats we have, or the chat groups with the girls and guys, where we laugh and share and gossip. But also what Dominic mentioned, that 3 million people in Switzerland are active in Facebook groups, where also you can find people sharing the same interests and really be part of a group and have this sense of community. And then a stat I would like to mention here is from OFCOM. They released the latest adults media life study. And they saw that 83% of consumers agreed that brands should use social channels to create a sense of community as well and being approachable throughout the customer journey. So WhatsApp is definitely something, and we just announced a couple of features there for businesses as well. But also when it comes to Facebook, Messenger, nowadays many people, when they look to interact with the brand, they go first to their social profiles, to Facebook, maybe even to Instagram direct. And that's definitely a good chance for you as a brand to facilitate the customer journey. So yeah, it's clear from these insights that there are these two key conditions on our platform that have become critical in building successful campaigns over the last year, and in particular over the holiday season. And this is, the connected community, where we've seen that people really feel the sense of connection. Also, interestingly, as part of the mega sales days, if you're shopping with your favorite e-commerce advertiser, maybe on Black Friday, that they really feel that they are part of this community. And then the discovery mindset, which I already mentioned, is super important, and a great use case also, and an opportunity for you as a brand to make use of when it comes to our platform. For example, 58% of EMEA shoppers agreed that they enjoy discovering items that they weren't actively looking for. And once again, I can definitely relate to that. So there are these key areas for the great comeback, and we were talking about the signs of holiday resilience. And the second part now is based on 5 key steps to take to secure a holiday comeback for your brand and business. Let's jump right into them. So the first would be that you can design the flagship store experience in the palm of your hand. So really facilitate this shopping experience in a mobile environment. And then secondly, tap into the rise of continuous shopping by making really use of this discovery situation that we have, also especially for gifting. And then Alice will take it away with the topics or steps on purpose, insights on mega sales days, and also that you making sure that you are aware of blind spots when it comes that could limit growth opportunities. So insight 1, and it's about designing, the flagship store experience in the palm of your hands. What can you do? What are new features? First, I want to start with this slide here, just to underline that the importance of mobile. We've seen from our study, 54% say mobile device has become the most important shopping tool in EMEA. Once again, also a stat that speaks for having a good shopping experience on mobile is that 40% try to avoid retail stores and prefer home delivery from Hochschule St. Gallen. And then also the stat from Digitec Galaxus from last, I believe, holiday season, where we've seen that the female target group in this instance was already doing more shopping on the mobile phone, on the smartphone, than on the computer. So it's, things are really looking pretty good for mobile commerce. But it's also because it's just much more convenient. So we've seen from our seasonal holiday study, once again, that people are saying online, in this case, is the easiest way to discover things. It's the easiest way to research things. That has been there for a long time. And then also the easiest way to purchase. And what I think is really, it's really amazing to see. Unfortunately, we can't name the brand here, but the retailer was saying, my key concern is how do we replicate the online experience in store? Whilst in the past, it was always about, hey, we have this great in-store experience. How can we bring this to the homes of people, and ideally also to their mobile devices? So the paradigm has definitely shifted, and things have turned around. And when we look about these mobile experiences, I want to highlight a couple of cases here. So from our study, we've seen that 82% say that social media has heightened their expectations around brand interaction. So it's really on you to facilitate this whole customer journey and speak to to your customers and kind of take them by their hands throughout the customer journey from discovery to driving purchases and then loyalty. A couple of cases I brought with me here is, for example, with AR filters, you can facilitate many aspects and be have a great experience for your clients and your customers. Tissot, for example, they partnered with Tour de France this year, very timely campaign that we have here, and they have this gamification event. So when you load the filter, you can collect those watches. Obviously, then afterwards, you can also go directly to the website and learn more about the individual watches after you played a couple rounds of the game. And another case I want to highlight is from L'Oréal. So they created a beauty festival in Facebook Live together with Messenger. And they were combining influencers, messenger bots, as I just mentioned, and over 100 real beauty advisors to guide shoppers through the purchase by providing critical recommendations from beauty advisors. And not only did this result in 200% return on ad spend uplift or sales uplift, but it also supported the beauty advisor community who weren't working to get their commission just as they would do in shops, and could do this all, remotely and facilitate this experience while people were in their homes, in the comfort of their homes, saw great results. And in general, just live shopping is one of those trends coming over from Asia. When we think about, the Alibaba Singles Day, for example, that drives new records every year. Live shopping is really a crucial element already to kind of connect brands with influencers and then with their customers, and selling and, building awareness and driving consideration, all in kind of one use case. And we expect a lot of that coming also over to EMEA and Switzerland, especially through the holiday season in Q4. Furthermore, I want to highlight the importance of messaging. Obviously, I mentioned WhatsApp is very widespread in Switzerland, but also Instagram Direct has seen huge adoption, and Facebook Messenger has already been around the block for a while and being used, throughout the customer journey pretty much. And for a lot of people, the online commerce is less really about websites and shops, and it is more about messaging. They want to get support, make purchases. Smaller businesses want to show their products, take orders via messages. Larger businesses want to be reliable and secure while communicating with their customers and facilitating customer service. So messaging, as a tool throughout the customer journey, especially important, and something to keep in mind while you're drafting your strategy for holiday season. And we're seeing here, obviously many different products. I won't go into all of them, but there's tons of news around the WhatsApp Business API and WhatsApp Business Profiles. Businesses are using very successfully click-to-message ads and messenger bot experiences. And we've seen also here 29% of EMEA holiday shoppers say they are more likely to consider purchasing from a business they can message. I mean, I find this very crucial nowadays when I do some shopping, that I can ask about products or services. I can ask about delivery and be kind of in the loop throughout my customer journey. Getting back into live shopping, because it is so important, we had the first kind of big case also from the DACH region last holiday season together with Zalando. So they were doing it in Poland. They went live with some of their creators and influencers, kind of showing people new collection, new fashion, talking about it, interacting with users, which we've seen driving very strong ROAS numbers. They reached new customers. They've delivered thousands of offers directly via Messenger, and they could really be at the forefront of this new trend of live shopping. So really cool to see that one of the companies from the DACH area is leading the way here. And we're definitely going to see much more of that from this year on. Insight number 2 about looking into the rise of continuous shopping, using discovery and then going directly into the further parts of the customer journey. I want to highlight a couple of stats. 55% of holiday shoppers who discover on Facebook discovered a gift for somebody whilst browsing. Could definitely be me, or people that have kind of a similar mindset. So once again, underlining this importance of discovery, and then also that people are really discovering difficulty in choosing what to buy for others, and they highlighted the necessity of discovering aids. And what we mean by discovering aids, going back also to 2020, is really the rollout of our commerce solutions, Facebook shops, Instagram shops. In the US, we're testing Instagram checkout directly, but also other features that you can use organically, tagging your products, but also in the ad system. The newest feature would be that now dynamic ads are automatically incorporating these shopping tags, that people can, kind of what they learned in the last couple of months and quarters, to directly go ahead, learn more about the product, find out more, and then go to the checkout flow. And this, once again, definitely accelerated throughout the last couple of years. So the preference for these this gifting discovery has increased massively over the last 2 years. Just once again underlining how important it is, and that's kind of how we would suggest you use our platforms, or the power of our family of apps and services, starting to think really about the discovery moment all the way to purchase and then driving loyalty. And how can you do this? Just think about how you can remove as much friction as possible, from the start of the customer journey all the way to the purchasing, make it seamless. And once again, the commerce solutions with shops and the shopping tags, maybe in organic or in ads, can definitely help facilitate the customer journey in a very, very seamless way. So these were the first 2 steps, and now I would hand over to Alice, who will take it away, and then we'll see each other in the end. If you have any questions, please keep them coming in the chat, and we'll see you again later. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Silvano. So I will kick it right off with the third step for a successful holiday season activation. But first of all, just as a quick information, because I saw that some questions were coming in, we will not be sharing the presentation with you, but we will share a recording of the whole event. So if something was particularly interesting to you, then you can have a look at it again. And with that, as I said, we're coming to the third step to the successful holiday season activation, and this is pushing a purposeful agenda. So purpose has always been a key festive ingredient, and it became even more important in 2020 when it moved from kind of a nice to have to a must have due to the pandemic. And the need for purpose is actually also highlighted through consumer behavior. A KPMG study found that 90% of consumers are willing to pay more to an ethical retailer or a brand who is giving back to society. And in a study we commissioned by YouGov, we also found that 1/3 of consumers are prioritizing sustainable products and services post-COVID. So this means that consumers are not only willing to pay more, but they are also prioritizing those sustainable products. In our YouGov study, we also found that more than 60% of shoppers did already take action to support a local or an independent small business during the holiday season. So this also shows that it's not just an intent of shopper to support these businesses, but they already do take action. And we also see this kind of habit shift on our platform. So for example, we analyzed the keyword searches on our platform with ROUNDTABLE, and we saw that keywords like empathy, reflect, and heal saw an increase in searches from 2019 to 2020 of over 30% each. In the YouGov study we commissioned, we also found that activism and social causes are one of the main interests on Instagram. And this might come as a surprise to you. It certainly did for me. It's even before food and fashion. And the last or another shift we see on our platform is that donations are a huge part of our platform. We saw that last year, $5 billion have been raised through personal fundraisers. And the interesting thing here is that it's mainly small donations. So most donations are $25 or less. And we also know that in general, so from consumer behavior, that half of the charitable donations happen around Christmas. So what do these insights mean for you? First of all, if you want to lean in on donations, really make it easy and provide the opportunity to donate quick and easy. So for example, include a donate button on your page, in your posts, or also if you do it in live videos. And then donators can choose if they want to give one time during that holiday season, or if they want to do a monthly recurring donation. You can also set up page fundraisers and then include a little fundraising stickers in your Facebook stories, for example. To learn more about the fundraising opportunities, you can go to socialimpact.facebook.com and find more information there. Another implication of these findings is that, that you really need to lean into purposeful storytelling. So last year, some of the most powerful work was based on collaboration, so focusing on working together as an industry rather than competitively. I brought an example here from the UK retailer Tesco. They showed an ad to people where they actually asked people to go to the pub instead of advertising their own Tesco beer. And you might have seen the similar ad that Burger King was running, where they actually told people to order at McDonald's or just any other fast food chain during the COVID pandemic, because the rationale behind it was that restaurant employees really need that support during the pandemic. And this really shows that working as a collective has a stronger impact than working competitively. And we also have a wonderful example here from Switzerland, how you can use purposeful storytelling. And this one is from Mikin. This is a small business who plants trees for every product they sell. And they also drive that sustainability focus in their communication and really say this in the ads they are showing to consumers. And finally, driving a purposeful agenda can also be done by start working with creators. The important thing here really is that you work with creators who share your brand values and who then are able to reach new audiences for you during this holiday season. We saw that leveraging branded content ads make your investment more efficient by increasing ROAS and also decreasing the cost per purchase compared to regular ad campaigns. So working with creators, and again, the really crucial point is creators who align with your brand's values can make sure that your message is heard by the right audiences who then take action. And speaking of taking action, let's focus on Mega Sales Day next. So this is our fourth step towards a successful holiday season. And even though those mega sales days have not been part of the Swiss holiday season for too long, we see that events like Black Friday become increasingly more popular here as well. And we know that in previous years, almost 6 in 10 holiday shoppers bought something during such a mega sales day event. And actually also our calendars become busier with those mega sales days in Q4. So we have the rather common ones that we adapted from the US, like Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Then we also have the newer ones like Singles Day on 11th of November, which we adopted from China and is increasingly growing in popularity here as well. And let's also not forget the so-called Q5 between Christmas and New Year's Eve. And also note that not all mega sales days are created equal. So for example, on Singles Day, shoppers really go for those impulse purchases for smaller prices, whereas on Black Friday, they tend to go for pricier items, where they also have a longer planning process across online and offline. And speaking of this planning process, to inform themselves about offers, shoppers increasingly rely on online channels to discover available offers. So in fact, we actually saw that Facebook platforms are one of the global drivers of discovery. So last year, almost 70% of shoppers were saying that they discovered an offer of an item they then later purchased through Facebook. And important to note here is that the planning process of shoppers also starts earlier each year. This is a trend we saw in 2020 and we expect it to continue this year. And this trend of that planning process, so people really getting ready and excited to shop at one of those mega sales events, also led to almost 1/4 of shoppers being done with most of their holiday shopping by Black Friday. So what does this mean to you as a marketer? So you might want to take a screenshot here, just because we're not sharing the presentation. So since consumers are starting their planning process of what they want to shop earlier each year, it is also important for you to start your communication process and your activation process as early as the consumers obviously start their process. So leverage a pre-tease period for people to discover your products is crucial. In this pre-tease period, you should focus on upper funnel objectives with ads such as video ads or in-stream ads. This is really to maximize your brand visibility and to drive product discovery. Then around 1 week before the event, you can move into a tease phase. Here you should focus on mid-funnel objectives, so really make sure to drive people to your website. And to do so, you can best use dynamic ads and the magic of our machine learning systems to let your products find the right consumers who then will eventually purchase it. And on the actual day, really fully focus on performance and on that purchase event to get as many sales in as possible. And also make sure not to forget the post-sale phase. So focus on building loyalty and focus on recurring customers. So for example, if you know that someone bought a shirt during Black Friday, then you might want to show them another ad. So maybe an ad of pants or something like that. And finally, our last step to ensure a successful holiday season is to be mindful of your own blind spots when planning and activating such a holiday season strategy. We know that at times of disruption, we change our habits. So we see this in the Global Web Index data, where 1/3 of consumers have tried a new brand or retailer in Q4 2020. And as you all know, in 2020, our habits were heavily disrupted due to the pandemic. And this trend will continue this year, as we kind of still have the effect of disruption and openness from consumers. And consumers are really willing to try new brands during the holiday season. We actually found that almost 90% of holiday shoppers say they will try a new brand this year. And they are also willing to try new markets. So in 2020, we saw that 41% of shoppers say they bought a product that was shipped from another market. So this is really a huge chance for Switzerland, which is a market that is heavily driven by export. So marketers can really embrace this openness from consumers to try new brands, but they also really need to be aware of their blind spots. And then, for example, on our platform, use the power of machine learning to overcome them. So first of all, when it comes to targeting, instead of limiting your campaigns with demographic and interest targetings, you can really let the machine learning algorithms do the work for you and let it connect your products to the most relevant shoppers, who then drive brand interactions and get those purchases in. Also make sure to let the creative find your audience and not the other way around. So use the insights we shared today to inspire your creatives. For example, think of how to bring purpose into your campaigns. And based on that, design your creative. And then, let the system find the right user to show your creative to and drive action. For example, you could craft 3 different creatives with 3 different messages, one focusing on the product, one focusing on sustainability, and then maybe also a price message. And then the algorithm will automatically find which creative to show to which consumer and drive action. We actually see that those real world tests, so testing, as I mentioned, these 3 creatives shows that the top performing and the bottom performing ad have a difference of performance in 11x. So test in a real world setting can really set you up for success. And to set you up for success in markets beyond Switzerland, also make sure to personalize and localize your campaigns. To do so, export businesses can leverage different tools on our platform to really benefit from machine learning on a global scale. So you can either use our dynamic language optimization, which we have talked about before, to speak to your consumers in their preferred language, or you can also localize your product catalogs to show your products in each country with localized information. So for example, you can show the prices in each country's currency. And lastly, also be aware of your media blind spots. Video viewing is fragmenting with less people watching commercial TV every year. So I brought an example from the UK here, and you can see that we have a gap of 8 million people who do not watch TV on a weekly basis. In fact, 71% of media time globally is now spent on digital channels. So really make sure to extend the reach of your holiday season TV campaigns through long-form video content on digital channels. So on our platform, this means leverage formats such as in-stream ads to drive a high view-through rate and get more reach in and really extend the reach of your TV campaigns. So in summary, we are really optimistic when it comes to securing the great Christmas comeback this year. And you can leverage these 5 insights we shared to best plan and execute your holiday activation. And just as a wrap up, to do so, you can follow the 5 implications we unpacked today. So first of all, discover connected experiences and implement digital touch points in your consumer journey to make sure to connect with people also on their mobile phone. Secondly, be helpful when it comes to gifting by letting your products find the right audience and by removing friction when it comes to buying online. Then thirdly, really lean into purposeful storytelling and work with creators to spread your brand's message. Then the 4th part was really make the most out of Mega Sales Day with a smart campaign strategy and start early enough to get your consumers excited. And lastly, connect with your audiences, with new audiences, by being aware of your blind spots and overcoming them with the power of machine learning. And with that, handing over to my colleague Kim, who will go into a bit more detail of how Migros, one of the biggest advertiser in Switzerland, is doing this. And once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in our Q&A box. And with that, over to you, Kim.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alice. And I'm not alone. I'm also joined by Philippe from Migros Online. So Philippe, very warm welcome to you. Super nice to see you. I'm not going to talk about soccer at all because I know it has been a hard week for the two of us. But super excited in having you today in the session. And Philippe, you're the head of digital marketing, media, and content at Migros Online, and you're also an e-commerce expert, I can say. And before we go into the questions a little bit more related on how you think about CYBERWEEK and how you'll make it a success, may I ask you quickly so that the audience get to know you, what is your favorite Swiss product that you're buying regularly?
Yeah, regularly, I don't know, but I would say I'm a really fan of the Victorinox Swiss Army because it was my first knife when I was a kid. But let's say if I would say regularly, I would say definitely chocolate.
Yes, chocolate, that's a great one. I thought about it for myself, and I have this, I'm not sure if you know it, it's the Ragusa Blonde, which is like caramel kind of type of chocolate, which is incredible. So yeah, I think we're super much aligned here. And yeah, now let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about e-commerce. And the first question I have for you is, what was the impact you saw based on the pandemic on your e-commerce activities, and also maybe what role does e-commerce play for Migros Online also looking forward?
Yeah, so it was really huge, I would say. So at Migros Online, one of our main value is really about flexibility, and yeah, and since the pandemic, we have to be really flexible as ever. So it means, for instance, during the last couple of months, we have to open a new warehouse to be able to deliver really our user in due time, but also to be able to have the best quality and freshness of our assortment. But also we saw a lot of changes in our users' behavior. So meaning now they are using more and more, let's say, e-commerce applications. So it's not only about food. And for that, we have to spend a lot of effort on UX and research to be able to provide the best customer journey as we can.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say in Migros, so within the Migros world, definitely our online services is a real plus for the pandemic, especially for the elder one. So 50 plus category of user definitely is some let's say best user during this crisis. and yeah, and it's really a good, let's say, additional services to be able to deliver either install, pick them up, or now online.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think super interesting insights, particularly also on the different age groups and the trends you're seeing there. And I know you're also running quite a bit of performance marketing. So kind of when evaluating the success right now of your particularly performance marketing efforts, can you tell us a little bit about what are the main KPIs you look into to evaluate the success?
Yeah, so here also we had to adapt ourselves to change. So mostly we have the same, but let's say on all the touch point I have to manage with my team, we don't have necessarily the same KPI, but for let's say the last year we had to shift our attention mostly on conversion and engagement. So it means mostly CPA, CPE, and CPC. And also, I mean, pandemic also brought us a lot of traffic that wasn't planned. So it's also something we have to, to manage, to handle. And so to achieve that, basically we had to set up a strong mapping tag. So it means we have a lot of events to really measure a lot of, let's say, action on our website or also application. So it could be active user, I mean, basics like, item in your basket or transactional action and so on. And so this is really a huge plus for all e-commerce, let's say, player. And then why we do that? So basically we try to be the leader of the digital supermarket, definitely in Switzerland. So, and the goal is really to make our users' life easier. So, and for that, obviously, as the competition, like I said, is, let's say, more tougher, and also the users are more, let's say, advanced, because now they really have to also use a lot of online let's say touch point. So for that, we have also to increase a lot our accuracy on our ads to avoid to be just, like consider like a clickbait, I would say. So for that also we let's say our challenges is really to be there where the user are, and also the right timing, and really about the needs, and not just to spread, but really to show them what they really need. I mean, during the pandemic, we talked a lot about the necessary goods, and I think also in advertising with all this privacy world and so on, we have also to really strongly work on this behavior needs, and not just to bother them, I would say.
Great. No, I love, the focus. I think you mentioned so many times, like really focus on the user, and also adaptability, so that you adapted and you shifted a lot of your strategy very, very quickly due to the new consumer behaviors. And I know this very well because I think you were one of the first ones, you and your team, that we started talking really early about also CYBERWEEK, holiday season, how to best prepare for it, how a test and learn agenda could look like. So would love to hear a little bit from your perspective. First of all, how you think about the test and learn approach, and also if you have any learnings that you can share with the audience that will help them to prepare for CYBERWEEK as well as for the holiday season.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, obviously in the media mix, it's tougher, let's say, to have the right campaign, first shot, and you really achieve everything, all your goal. So it's really about, like UX, it's really about test and learn a lot. So you have really to fine tune, to always optimize on a daily basis. And for that, definitely test and learn agenda is really, I would say, a must, because it's always tough if you just talk about the running campaign and everything. and then you really have to make a step back. And I mean, with the pandemic, it's really also a nice, let's say, I shouldn't say that, but it's still a nice timing to make some tests. So for us, it was really also nice to did some tests with Facebook, for instance, either on yellow optimization or also on conversion lead, for instance. And currently, as you know, we are also running tests for the dynamic budget split optimization. And I think this really allows us to perform more and more and to, let's say, to bring Facebook more as a direct conversion driver and not just as a, a parallel, let's say, push.
Thank you for sharing. Love that mindset. As you said, we have a lot of, I think, joint work that already has gone into there. And maybe looking a little bit ahead of the future. So it seems like, I mean, you're already preparing really well for the CYBERWEEK. So what results are you actually expecting for Miko Online? We already heard, I think, from Alice and Silvano that we're expecting that the CYBERWEEK will be the biggest ever again. So what results are you expecting and how will you measure success?
Yeah, so expectation, we don't know. I mean, always we would like to have the best outcome. I would say mostly, again, it's more on the user behavior. I mean, CYBERWEEK, especially for food, it's not the same as, for instance, Digitech or Amazon, some retailer like that. So on our side, we mostly try to follow the trend and really be there if people really need us. So for that, it's mostly about having, let's say, plan B, maybe plan C, because we don't know if we will have a new crisis or new lockdown, or I mean, on our side, it's really a lot depending of the demand, and that it's tough, let's say, to plan something. So it's mostly again, we try to think on a dynamic way, so on a shopping feed with some dynamic setup and so on, and then we can just switch if we need, or jump in a really let's say biggest campaign even one day before. So expectation, obviously a lot, because we have with my team to support the OKRs of our company. So definitely we have some, but yeah, I couldn't say we are waiting this, let's say, so it's difficult, but definitely we will be there. Yeah.
No, great, thank you for sharing. It definitely will be a big one. And I think, just two key messages that you said. I mean, again, it's adaptability, really, we don't know how it will be. We know it will be big, like really testing a lot before and then making changes as we go. And also what you mentioned regarding shopping, Facebook, Instagram shops, we haven't talked about it so much today, but there will be a lot of exciting updates coming also, where I know you guys are working on this as we speak. So thank you so much, Philippe, for the quick interview. It was amazing having you. Hopefully it was also helpful for the audience. And now we'll spend the last few minutes for the Q&A again. So I'll hand over to Silvano and Alice. Thank you, Philippe. And we'll see us anyway soon.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you so much, Philippe and Kim. Over to a couple of questions. Thanks so much for sending them in. I quickly prepared a couple of slides so you can follow them the best way possible. Hope you can see that. So we had a question. Many users have been burned by discovering junk products, fly-by-night advertisers on Facebook and Instagram, where the quality of the product was surprisingly poor or misrepresented, or even the company did not provide what was expected. How does Facebook address building confidence that its advertisers are trustable or vetted? So thanks so much for this question. Definitely a very important one. And we've seen this really coming up with the rise of, I would say, dropshipping, maybe early 2016 were the heydays. And we quickly put a process in place that you have maybe also seen from your own experience on Facebook and Instagram, which is like a feedback form that you will see inside of your feed, where as soon as we know that you purchased the good from one of those advertisers through the data we have from the pixel, that we can show you this survey and ask about the experience with this company that you bought with. So it's a couple of very simple questions, and this will result in a score that the advertiser or the company will get. And if this score, so we ask, for example, was the delivery in time, was the product as expected, what was the customer service like, all these kind of super essential questions. And if we get negative feedback on that, the score will be lowered. And the lower you get, and especially once you kind of cross the threshold, then there will be a penalty for this advertiser's ads. So they will cost much more, they will be much less visible in the feed, and in the end can result in disabling the ad account at once. So very important process that we put in place, and should definitely help to to also uplift kind of the other players in the advertising space. Over to the next question.
Yeah, exactly. The next question we got was, when you see people spontaneously purchasing something from Facebook or Instagram after getting inspired, can you identify what inspired them and show targeted ads? So we kind of have two parts to this. As I mentioned, creative testing is a very important part of running ads on Facebook. So really get different messages in and try to find the one message that inspires people to buy something, or that inspires people to, for example, visit your page and then discover kind of your products or the products you're offering. And when it comes to this discovering, as Silvano and I have talked about, it's probably best if you run dynamic ads and really let your products find the right audience. And here you might also want to run an A/B test and really look how dynamic ads work for you versus static ads, and find the best strategy of how to run ads on Facebook.
Good stuff, Alice. Last quick one, will there be WhatsApp shopping? So we cannot disclose any product features coming up. Mostly we also don't know about them ourselves, but what's already in place is that you can create a WhatsApp business profile, and then you can set up your catalog, just like you have it for your dynamic ads or for your shopping. And you can interact with users directly in WhatsApp, which again is so much used in Switzerland, and can share products directly from the product catalog and build a really good user experience already in WhatsApp. And I would say there's definitely much more to come when it comes to WhatsApp. So very quickly over to Alice before we go into the next break.
Exactly. So we saw that some questions came in. I hope that we inspired some of you when it comes to how to activate for Black Friday and Cyber Week. And what we also want to highlight now is that we have planned a Cyber Week and holiday season preparation bootcamp. So we have heard from Migros, one of the biggest advertisers in Switzerland, that they are also preparing for Q4. And so actually, why shouldn't you? So better be safe than sorry. In 5 very crisp sessions, we will let you know everything that is to know when it comes to planning your campaign strategy, how delivery works on our platform, and also talk about measurement strategies you can implement, and also creative considerations. You will always have the chance to ask questions. So here is a link to sign up, and feel also free to share this link with your teams so that everyone can join who might be interested. And with that, thank you very much for attending this session and also for your questions. Please, since you already have your phones out now, also scan this QR code, leave us quick feedback, because feedback is a gift. And we will move right on with the next session with our roundtable discussions of small businesses. So stay tuned to hear from them and see you in a bit. Ciao.
Herzlich willkommen da beim Swiss Digital Summer Day mit der Roundtable-Diskussion. Also sehr spannende Insights, die wir da bis jetzt bekommen haben, unter anderem auch Language Optimization. Und das ist jetzt das, was ich selber wird vornehmen. Eine erste Language Optimization, und zwar vom Schweizerdeutsch ins Hochdeutsch rein. Ich begrüße euch herzlich zum Thema, wie Schweizer KMUs während der Pandemie erfolgreich umgeschaltet haben Einblicke, Learnings und Chancen. Und ja, ich kann es natürlich auch nicht lassen, den Fußball ins Spiel zu bringen, und zwar umschalten. Das ist etwas sehr Bekanntes im Fußball, das Umschaltspiel, das Umschaltmomentum, wo man im Fußball eine neue Spielsituation vorfindet und dann versucht, die entsprechend zu nutzen. Das kann eine Chance sein, das kann aber auch eine Gefahr sein, die es abzuwägen gilt. Insofern passt das heute zwischen diesen beiden Spielen von Montag und Freitag wunderbar. Ich habe dazu eine wirklich sehr gute Runde, muss ich sagen. Ich freue mich da auch sehr drauf. Die Talker heute, die Mitspieler sozusagen, ist auf der einen Seite mal die Sinje Dorenburg. Die Sinje ist von Facebook, quasi der Co-Host heute. Sie wird dann auch die Verabschiedung machen und die Fragen entgegennehmen und handeln. Und dann die Daniela Wechsler, CMO von Wildbiene Partner. Sie bringt die Welt zum Summen. Dann der Nicolas Henny, Co-Founder und CEO von Nikin. Er pflanzt Bäume und verkauft Produkte. Dann der Sean Pfister, Co-Founder von Delisocks, produziert viele bunte Socken. Der Thomas Prantl von Güberlin schreibt seit 3 Jahren nur sehr wenige E-Mails. Er wird erläutern, wieso. Dann der Jon Kiefer, Leiter Vermarktung Bankwir. Er wirft die Kampagnenplanung über den Haufen. Auch dazu wird er uns dann mehr sagen können. Wieso KMUs? Die Frage. Es gibt in der Schweiz rund 600.000 KMUs, das sind 99% aller Unternehmen, und sie steuern auch 75% aller Arbeitsplätze bei, und von daher eben sehr wichtig. Und ja, ich möchte jetzt eigentlich starten. Vielleicht noch zu mir kurz. Ich bin Beat Hürlimann, Redakteur von Horizont und Sparringpartner für Social Media Tauchgänge. Jetzt zum Start tauchen wir aber nicht ins Wasser, sondern wir gehen in die Luft, und zwar zu Daniela Wechsler zum Start. Und Daniela Wechsler von Wildbiene und Partner ist ein Scale-Up, das ist seit 7 Jahren am Markt. Daniela, herzlich willkommen.
Vielen Dank. Hallo miteinander.
Ja, Daniela, freut mich sehr, dich jetzt zum Start zu begrüßen, unser Auftakt. Jetzt, Daniela, wir hatten auch zuvor gehört, in den Speech zuvor, wie wichtig eben ein Purpose ist, wie wichtig es ist, dass Firmen eben irgendwie einen höheren Zweck in dem Sinn erfüllen, und da bist du ja ein wunderbarer Einstieg. Und deshalb eine Frage zum Start: Was treibt euch an? Was ist euer Purpose? Und welcher Nutzen verbirgt sich hinter Wildbiene und Partner?
Ja, also unser großer Wunsch ist eigentlich eine Buzzing World for All. Und um dieses Ziel zu erreichen, sind wir in 3 Businessbereichen unterwegs. Zum einen möchten wir das Erlebnis Wildbiene Privaten näher bringen. Das machen wir, indem du dir bei uns ein Bee-Home, also ein Bienenhotel inklusive Bewohnern kaufen kannst, bei dir auf dem Balkon installierst oder im Garten und mit den richtigen Wildblumen einen wichtigen Beitrag zur Förderung der Biodiversität leistest. Dann bieten wir auch einen Bestäubungsservice für Obstbauern, wo es darum geht, wirklich zum richtigen Zeitpunkt Blüten zu bestäuben und so auch Blüten, aber auch die Bäume blühen zu lassen und so Ernteerträge optimiert und maximiert werden können. Dann der letzte Bereich heißt Bee Paradise. Da schaffen wir Paradiese für Mensch und Tier, indem wir Grünflächen umgestalten zu biodiversen Habitaten und so ein Paradies schaffen für Mensch und Tier.
Sehr schön. Jetzt, ihr macht ja auch viel E-Commerce, wenn es mir recht ist. Also viele der Bestellungen erfolgen via E-Shop, oder? Das ist richtig so, wie ich das in Erinnerung habe. Jetzt, Daniela, jetzt kam diese Pandemie dann irgendwann im März. Das ist ja gleich da, wo es bei euch dann langsam losgeht mit dem Summen im Frühling, die Bienen. Wie hat euch das getroffen? Was war so die größte Herausforderung in dem Moment, als dieser Lockdown uns dann traf?
Also wir sind auch nebst der Pandemie extrem abhängig vom Frühlingswetter, denn wir arbeiten mit Bienen, die fliegen, die bestäuben im Frühling. Und das war so der größte Challenge. Also nebst Einschränkungen in der Produktion, die üblichen Challenges, die viele Firmen getroffen hat, dass da Produktionsketten unterbrochen wurden, hatten wir zusätzlich den Challenge des Wetters. Und das ist im E-Commerce-Bereich sowieso jeweils ein großer Challenge, da seine Kampagnen hoch und runter zu fahren, je nachdem, wie auch die Customers dann bereit sind, ihren Balkon zum Beispiel zu gestalten. Mit Schnee Ende April und sehr gefrierigen Temperaturen ist das halt schwierig. Aber das ist, die Pandemie hat uns halt zusätzlich noch gezwungen, radikalere und schnellere Entscheidungen zu treffen.
Jetzt, welches war euer beflügelndes, vielleicht passend zum Thema, euer beflügelndes Umschaltmomentum, wenn zum ersten Mal eben auf dieses Umschaltmomentum zu sprechen zu kommen? Was war da das Erste?
Also zum einen ist das die Wahl der Kanäle. Sicherlich, wir sind sonst eher klassisch mit Newsletter unterwegs, haben wir öfters näher auch beim Kunden kommuniziert via Social Media und das dann auch in den Kampagnen passend zum Thema. Die Leute waren eher im Homeoffice, da passen unsere Bienen auch als Abwechslung ganz gut rein. Sind wir da stark auf Social Media, auch in der Kommunikation umgestiegen und haben auch die Pandemie eigentlich genutzt, um näher beim Kunden zu kommunizieren und näher beim Kunden zu sein.
Dann hat sich das also irgendwo bewahrt, also was wir zuvor gehört haben, 91% würden eben auf Facebook oder generell Social Media, das betrifft auch andere Social Medias, sich inspirieren lassen und dann einen Kauf tätigen. Das ist so ein Effekt, der ihr auch beobachtet.
Absolut.
Sehr gut. Jetzt, ich glaube, ein Challenge bei eurem Business ist ja, weil es ja sehr saisonal ist, und das gibt ja viele KMUs in der Schweiz auch, die eben im Tourismus tätig sind oder sonst wo in einem Bereich, wo eben das Saisonale, wo eben, wenn es schön ist, irgendwie muss man die Chance nutzen, irgendwie eben Ausflugsziele oder was auch immer, oder auch bei euch eben, wenn das Wetter irgendwie schön ist, dann sind die Leute affiner, eben bei euch was zu kaufen. Und wie macht ihr das, damit ihr irgendwie schnell in die Gänge kommt? Diese Kurzfristigkeit ist hier das Thema.
Ja, Kurzfristigkeit und eben das Wetter. Also wir sind extreme Wetterbeobachter. Zum einen im Bee-Management, natürlich auch in der Kampagnenplanung. Und jeder von euch Anwesenden weiß wahrscheinlich, dass wenn man heute die Kampagne live schaltet, ist die morgen nicht gleich auf dem Top-Stand. Also ist da gute, gezielte Planung mit dem Wetter natürlich sehr wichtig, aber auch mit dem Wetter und deren Informationen zu spielen, eben den Mood entsprechend anzupassen, wenn das Wetter halt mal nicht stimmt, wie man sich vorbereiten kann, wenn dann das schöne Wetter eintrifft. Und ich glaube, es ist ein Zusammenspiel zwischen Kommunikation, aber auch Kampagnenplanung, sich da vorzubereiten und sicherzustellen, dass wenn das Wetter dann gut ist, dass man auch die Kampagnen irgendwie auf dem besten Stand hat, dass die dann auch performen können. Und die Leute reagieren ja dann entsprechend auch auf gute oder schlechte Wetterkampagnen, wenn das der Realität entspricht.
Sehr gut, vielen Dank. Jetzt Sinje, wenn ich dich erstmal ins Spiel bringen darf. Sinje, was ist so dein Ratschlag jetzt eben gerade für dieses kurzfristig in die Gänge zu kommen, oben beim Funnel reinzukommen und dann eben schnell auch nach unten zu kommen in die Conversions rein oder was auch immer. Was gibt es hier aus Facebook-Sicht für Tipps? Ratschläge.
Ja, erstmal Hallo an alle. Ich freue mich wirklich, heute dabei zu sein. Vielleicht kann ich ein bisschen darüber sprechen. Erstmal das Mindset, was Daniela auch schon angesprochen hat. Also man muss unglaublich agil sein. Ne? Also man darf sich von der, jetzt in dem Beispiel Pandemie, nicht zerrütten lassen. Ne? Man muss relativ schnell in die Gänge kommen und sich überlegen, was kann man Neues machen. Und vielleicht kann ich ein bisschen mehr, auch gerade weil ihr über Gastro und Tourismus gesprochen habt, vielleicht kann ich da erstmal anfangen und ein bisschen darüber erzählen, was wir auch in der Vergangenheit jetzt gerade in der Pandemie gesehen haben. Denn man braucht nicht nur den Mindset-Shift, sondern natürlich auch einen Shift im Umgang auch auf Facebook und mit seinen Kunden und potenziellen Kunden. Und da haben wir vor allem gesehen im Tourismusbereich, dass man vom internationalen Tourismus, ich glaube, wir alle lieben es, irgendwo hinzufliegen, ist natürlich jetzt seit einer Weile nicht mehr möglich, aber da muss man den Shift natürlich hinbekommen zum lokalen Tourismus. Und da haben doch einige unserer Unternehmer und Partner herausgefunden, dass es auch in der Pandemie möglich ist, einfach im eigenen Land natürlich Urlaub zu machen, sofern es die Lockdown-Bestimmungen auch geboten haben und sofern natürlich auch Hotels offen hatten oder Tagesausflüge. Das heißt, man muss vor allem halt diesen Shift in der Kommunikation oder in der Nachricht, die man übermitteln will, hinbekommen. Wie schön ist zum Beispiel der Heimaturlaub oder einfach neue Plätze in der Heimat zu entdecken, die man noch nicht kannte. Ne? Und vor allem ist natürlich auch in der eigenen Heimat ein geringeres Risiko, als wenn man ewig lang im Flugzeug sitzt oder vielleicht in ein anderes Land fliegt, wo man auch gar nicht die Bestimmungen groß kennt. Ne? Ihr kennt bestimmt alle, dass man besonders auch lokale Testimonials verwenden kann. Zum Beispiel Roger Federer ist natürlich gerade in der Schweiz im Tourismusbereich sehr aktiv. Und vor allem ist einfach wichtig, auch wenn wir an die Kommunikation denken, dass wir ganz klar kommunizieren, was sind die Stornobedingungen und dass Hotels oder auch vielleicht Freizeitparks oder so die Hygienestandards einhalten oder auch Frühbucherrabatte anbieten. Also gerade diese Kommunikation ist unglaublich wichtig, weil man ja doch von sich kennt, dass man viele Sorgen hat in der Pandemie und dass man einfach als Unternehmer dem potenziellen Kunden oder existierenden Kunden diese Ängste auch nimmt. Und was das vielleicht auch jetzt gerade in der hoffentlich langanhaltenden Post-Covid-Zeit bedeutet, ist, dass man auch gerade diese Flexibilität und Lockerheit beibehält. Ich glaube, man konnte sich schon neu definieren in der Covid-Zeit und einfach dann dazu führen, dass man alles nochmal neu bedenkt. Was vielleicht auch gerade jetzt auf konkret deine Frage zum Funnel hin wichtig ist, es ist unglaublich wichtig, immer einen Always-on-Approach zu haben. Und das heißt, dass man immer die Zielgruppen aufbaut, die man dann konstant das ganze Jahr über bespielen möchte. Also nicht nur in der Lockdown-Phase, sondern natürlich auch darüber hinaus, dass man diese Leute vielleicht dann auch nochmal retargeten kann. Und was noch eine schöne Möglichkeit ist, bei Facebook bietet diese Poll-Ads, also dass man Fragen stellen kann, dass man einfach auch während des Lockdowns oder in hoffentlich keinen Lockdowns mehr spielerisch mit der Zielgruppe in Interaktion treten kann und zum Beispiel kleine Mini-Umfragen machen kann.
Sehr gut, danke. Jetzt, du hast mir ein Stichwort gegeben, quasi den Ball zugespielt. Vielen Dank dafür. Always on. Damit möchte ich jetzt zu Nicolas Henny kommen. Nicolas Henny ist ein sehr gutes Beispiel für einen Always-on-Man. Und zwar ist er selber eben sehr stark aktiv in den sozialen Medien. Das ist übrigens etwas, das all die heutigen, also euch alle, eigentlich auszeichnet, dass ihr eben selber auch sehr aktiv auf Social Media sind. Das verspricht natürlich auch tiefe Insights. Jetzt, Nicolas, herzlich willkommen. Speed Question, Frage, Arve oder Lerche?
Lerche.
Okay, ich frage das, weil ich jetzt da in meinem alten Office im Engadin bin und umgeben von Arven und Lerchen, aber ich frage das nicht aus einem anderen Grund. Und zwar, du hast, wenn es mir recht ist, bislang 1,4 Millionen Bäume gepflanzt. Nikolaus, was ist dein Business? Bist du Förster? Oder was ist dein Business? Erklär das uns kurz.
Genau, also wir bei Nicken sind eine Schweizer Kleidermarke, die pro verkauften Produkt einen Baum pflanzen lässt. Und ja, das Ganze startet einfach damit, dass wir was machen wollten und ich und ein Freund von mir beides Pfadfinder waren, was Natur zurückgeben wollten und dann mal mit 16 Mützen gestartet sind und dann wurde es immer mehr und mehr. Und ja, vor allem auch dank Facebook und anderen Möglichkeiten konnten wir auch mit wenig Geld starten, hochskalieren und so kam es dann eigentlich aus 5.000 Franken Startkapital dann 1,4 Millionen Bäume wurden. Genau, und zwar das meiste war E-Commerce, Facebook-Ads und auch alle anderen Bereiche, die dazu beigetragen haben. Genau, aber wir sind keine Förster, aber wir sind Pfadfinder.
Super, alles gut. Also, Janik, was war los bei euch, als im März 2020 quasi Corona das Spieldiktat übernahm?
Bei uns ist es zuerst super unsicher, als der Bundesrat die außerordentliche Lage ausgerufen hat. 5 Tage lang gingen die Sales auch runter und ich dachte so, ups, jetzt müssen wir was tun. Aber was wir dann gemacht haben, ist halt anstelle von die Marketing-Budgets gefrieren, nichts mehr machen, haben einfach mehr ausgegeben als vorher. Und weil alle anderen weniger ausgegeben haben, wurden wir plötzlich extrem krass ausgespielt, haben dann auch die Kommunikation angepasst und mehr auf so Stay Home, Cozy, Bilder gesetzt, das hat gut funktioniert und haben einige Sales-Aktionen gemacht, haben die, jetzt mal nicht Performance-Marketing-mäßig, sondern mehr allgemein Social Media organisch, haben wir die Bildsprache angepasst, schnell gemerkt, dass Gruppenbilder nicht mehr gut ankommen, haben mehr eben genauso Polls gemacht, Insta-Lives etc., also haben eigentlich an verschiedenen Orten versucht, da flexibel uns anzupassen und hat dann echt ziemlich gut funktioniert.
Jetzt, euer Umschaltmoment, du hast mir im Vorfeld gesagt, ihr habt 5 Content Creators neu eingestellt, in generell antizyklisch. Du hast eben das Antizyklische, das Offensive angesprochen, passt ja auch sehr gut zum Schweizer Spiel von Wladimir Petkovic, unserem Trainer. Ja, wie kannst du das kurz eben, du hast 5 Leute angestellt. Jetzt, ich weiß nicht, wenn man das hochrechnet auf die Mikro zum Beispiel oder die Credits ist, dann müssten die ja irgendwie wahrscheinlich 500 Content Creators haben. Wieso ist dieser Stellenwert des Contents?
Wir brauchen, also wenn man viel auf Social Media unterwegs ist, sei das organisch oder paid, dann muss man schnell und flexibel Content erstellen können, kann nicht die ganze Zeit von irgendwelchen externen Agenturen abhängig sein oder Freelancern. Und genau deswegen haben wir 2 Video-Content-Creators, 3 Leute im Social-Media-Bereich. Wir haben noch 1, 2 Leute, die Grafiken machen können. Also wir haben ziemlich viele, die das umsetzen können. Und das ist eben genau wichtig, weil wäre in dem Moment, wo jetzt Corona kam, wir gemerkt haben, wir müssen was ändern, hätten wir noch 1000 Dinge abklären müssen, dann wäre es 2, 3 Wochen gegangen, bis wir mal die neuen Ads gehabt hätten, die neuen Creatives etc. Und auch wenn es ums Wetter geht zum Beispiel, ist das wichtig, weil auch wir, wenn es kalt wird, dann skalieren wir die Ads nach oben. Auch da müssen wir schnell die Bilder umstellen können, vielleicht was neu machen. Genau deswegen ist es wichtig. Ich glaube, es ist wichtig, dass wir einerseits flexibel Content, Ads, was auch immer erstellen können und andererseits auch viel Content Ads erstellen können, weil wir posten auf jeder Plattform jeden Tag meistens mehrere Male und das ginge nicht ohne, oder wäre viel teurer mit extern und wäre viel komplizierter. Und deswegen fand ich das so wichtig und deswegen habe ich auch noch mehr angestellt während der Covid-Phase.
Also du sprichst eben das Thema der Agilität, sprichst du an. Jetzt doch noch ganz kurz vielleicht die Masken-Story. Das ist ja quasi euer Erfolgsstory in dieser Zeit.
Genau, also wir haben nicht im ersten Lockdown, im Juli haben wir uns entschieden, dass wir die Masken doch herstellen, obwohl wir es zu Beginn nicht wollten. Wir wollten nicht irgendwie Geld aus einer Krise ziehen oder Profit ziehen. Als es dann aber obligatorisch wurde im ÖV in der Schweiz, haben mehrere hundert Kunden auf unserer Webseite nach Masken gesucht. Wir haben extrem viele Nachrichten erhalten. Und dann mal die Community gefragt, sollen wir Masken machen oder nicht? Und dann haben sie gesagt, ja. Dann haben sie gefragt, wie sollen wir sie bepreisen? Dann haben sie gesagt, zum Selbstkostenpreis plus Baum. Und haben es dann so umgesetzt, dass man eine Maske kaufen konnte für 5 Franken. Das war eben Selbstkostenpreis plus Baum. Und man konnte auch noch 5 Franken mehr zahlen und dann spenden an die Corona-Hilfe der Caritas Schweiz. Und es kam dann so, dass wir etwa 80.000 oder 90.000 Masken verkauft haben, 50.000 Franken Spenden zusammenkamen, die in Caritas gingen. Und auch wenn wir damit direkt kein Geld verdient haben, kamen wir indirekt, hatten wir viel PR damit. Und jeder Dritte, der eine Maske bestellt hat, doch noch normale Nicken-Artikel bestellt. Also es war eigentlich so eine unserer Erfolgsstories im letzten Jahr. Und geht jetzt sogar weiter PR-mäßig, weil wir jetzt zu viele haben, einen Teil jetzt upcyclen wollen und jetzt wieder in die Medien kamen. Deswegen. und da wieder die Community gefragt haben, was sie damit machen sollen. Deswegen war das so was Spontanes, das aber super gut rauskam.
Also ich denke wirklich, das ist so eine Best-Case-Kampagne eigentlich. Man hat den Purpose, was ja bei euch in der DNA drin ist, mit den Bäumen, die gepflanzt werden. Dem tu Gutes, aber eben auch das Business natürlich am Leben, nicht am Leben, sondern das Business eben weiterzutreiben. Ich denke, diese Kombination ist sehr spannend. Jetzt, ich möchte, Sinje, an dich die Frage. Jetzt, der Nikolaus ist selber sehr aktiv in den sozialen Medien. Jetzt, wie wichtig ist das, dass man eben selber als Owner oder auch als Manager, auch im Top-Management, der eben viele Entscheidungen verantwortet, die eben dann mit Social Media auch zu tun haben. Wie wichtig ist es, dass die auch selber wirklich eben Erfahrungen sammeln mit diesen Social Medias?
Meiner Meinung nach kommt das echt auf die Firmengröße drauf an. Also wenn man einen riesengroßen Laden hat mit 500 Angestellten, dann ist das natürlich was anderes, als wenn man 20 Mitarbeiter hat. Daher das schon mal als Grundgerüst vorhergenommen. Jetzt zum Beispiel gerade bei Nikolaus, weil ich Nikolaus auch kenne und natürlich vor allem auf LinkedIn auch folge, finde ich, macht er das besonders gut, einfach um wirklich involviert zu sein, um Dinge aber auch selbst zu leiten. Ob das darum geht, neue Produkte vielleicht zu entwickeln oder einfach die Community nach neuen Ideen zu fragen, ist unglaublich wichtig, weil das gibt dem potenziellen Kunden natürlich auch das Gefühl von Zusammenhalt und ich gehöre mit zu der Firma, was natürlich unglaublich toll ist und das verstärkt natürlich das Gefühl, dass man da noch mal mehr kaufen möchte und das Unternehmen unterstützen möchte. Das heißt, es gibt kein klares Ja oder Nein, dass man involviert sein muss, aber ich denke, dass hier ein paar Vorteile und natürlich Nachteile gibt, je nachdem, wie viele Ressourcen man hat. Ich denke, bei größeren Firmen macht es Sinn, dass man dafür die Experten auch einstellt, die dann konkret die Finger daran haben, Social Media auszubauen und da auch direkt sich mit den Anwendungen auszukennen. Aber ich denke, gerade in den kleineren Bereichen oder auch wenn es gerade um das Thema Nachhaltigkeit geht, ist man, glaube ich, noch mal anders involviert. Und ich denke, da ist es besonders wichtig, da einfach involviert zu sein und alles von erster Hand zu kennen und sich nicht darauf zu verlassen, was vielleicht andere sagen. Denn nur dann kommen auch neue Ideen. Und ich denke, das kann auch Nikolaus wahrscheinlich bestätigen, dass wenn man halt wirklich intensiv mitarbeitet, dann sprudelt man einfach vor Ideen.
Super. Ich habe eine nächste Speed-Question-Frage. Also der Paar hat mich hier inspiriert zu dem, muss ich sagen, eine spontane Geschichte, und zwar Bund oder Uni. Und ich denke, es ist auch klar, wer hier angesprochen ist im Roundtable. Bund oder Uni?
Bund.
Bund. Herzlich willkommen, Sean. Und damit sind wir voll in der bunten Welt von Sean Pfister von Daily Sachs. Auch bei dir, ich liebe Stories. Ich finde Stories, ich glaube, es ist erwiesenermaßen auf Facebook was sehr gut funktioniert. Kurz, eure Founder-Story. Wie kam es dazu?
Es ist eine ziemlich simple Story. Also wir sind 2013 waren wir in einem Kurzurlaub. Es war damals London, das war ich mit Freunden zusammen. Und wir haben dann da unterwegs eigentlich bei den Leuten entdeckt, dass die mit farbigen Socken Akzente setzen. Und wir haben das so faszinierend gefunden, dass wir uns selber Socken gekauft haben. Die haben wir in die Schweiz genommen, getragen. Und damals war es wirklich so, dass man so ein bisschen der Exote war, wenn man solche Socken getragen hat. Und wir wurden so oft darauf angesprochen, dass wir gedacht haben, ich glaube, da gibt es einen Markt für. Und in der Schweiz waren dazumals auch die farbigen Socken gar nicht wirklich so verfügbar. Deshalb haben wir dann gefunden, hey, lass uns da mal so ein kleines Konzept starten und ein kleines Projekt starten, haben unterschiedliche Brands eingekauft, die farbige Socken produzieren, haben die auf einen Online-Shop gestellt und dann im Endeffekt mit ganz wenig Facebook-Ads ziemlich schnell ausverkauft. Und das war eigentlich auch so ein bisschen der Proof of Concept, wo uns dann dazu gebracht hat, das Projekt eigentlich auch ein bisschen zu professionalisieren und weiterzuführen.
Ich finde das eine super Founder-Story. Und deshalb auch kurz jetzt vielleicht an dich die Frage, Sinje, wie ordnest du dass man mehr diese Stories aus den Filmen heraus eben erzählt in euren Feeds? Was beobachtet ihr da?
Ja, also ich finde dafür schlägt natürlich auch mein Herz für die kleinen und mittelständischen Unternehmen. Ne? Und die haben natürlich alle eine super Gründerstory zu erzählen. Und das ist ja auch schon allein Verkaufsmaterial. Ne? Also ich gehe lieber bei einem kleinen Unternehmen einkaufen als bei den typischen großen E-Com-Ketten. Das heißt, vielleicht zwei Unterschiede. Bei der Werbung würde ich darauf achten, dass man wirklich mehr sich auf Abverkäufe oder Lead-Generations fokussiert. Aber es kommt natürlich auch darauf an, was das Businessmodell ist. Wenn es tatsächlich um die eigene Story geht, dann würde ich dafür auch vor allem Produkte verwenden, wie zum Beispiel unsere Instagram-Stories. Da kann man unglaublich gut so den Tag für Tag, Day-to-Day-Business auch ein bisschen beschreiben. Ob das dann vielleicht in der Werkstatt ist oder ob das vielleicht im Büro ist, wie man vielleicht neue Designs auch herstellt. Ich glaube, das gibt den Kunden nochmal bessere Insights, wie tickt eigentlich der Laden und kann man sich dadurch auch nochmal mit denen identifizieren und selbst vielleicht auch beitragen. Vielleicht hat Sean auch mal die Idee zu fragen, was für Motive wollt ihr sehen auf euren Socken? Und ich bin selbst großer Dilly Socks Fan, daher spule ich manchmal auch schon vor Ideen. Also Sean, ich schreibe dir gerne danach mal, aber ich glaube einfach, dass diese Gründerstories sehr wichtig sind, um einfach die Menschlichkeit oder das Menschliche noch ein bisschen mehr den anderen Leuten mitzugeben.
Ja, ich glaube schon, ihr pflegt das ja auch jetzt, da eben war für euch natürlich die ganze Pandemie, die kam. Jetzt okay, Menschen waren mehr zu Hause, vielleicht Haussocken, ich weiß es nicht. Aber was war so euer Umschaltmoment? Wie hat es euch getroffen und wie war euer Umschaltmoment? Was habt ihr da gemacht?
Also eigentlich zu Beginn haben wir gar nicht viel geändert. Also für uns war, ich glaube, das Positive an der Situation, dass wir schon von Beginn an mehrere Absatzkanäle haben. Also wir verkaufen stationär sowohl wie auch online und auch über Messen. Aber natürlich sind dann zwei dieser Kanäle eigentlich ziemlich stark betroffen gewesen. Also ich glaube vor allem der Lockdown war für den stationären Handel natürlich super schwer. Im Endeffekt, was wir aber gemerkt haben, ist, dass da eigentlich ein Shift stattgefunden hat. Also unsere Kunden, die haben weiterhin Socken konsumiert, aber nicht mehr über den Handel, sondern halt über unseren Online-Shop, was eigentlich mega positiv war. Wir haben ähnlich reagiert wie Nicolas. Wir haben eigentlich dann im Endeffekt einfach das Budget erhöht und geschaut, dass wir dort eigentlich so viel Absatz wie möglich über unseren Online-Kanal reinbekommen. Die Kommunikation haben wir in dem Sinne auch nicht wesentlich angepasst, weil das Produkt eigentlich sich auch so super verkauft hat. Was vielleicht auch noch was war, wo wir ziemlich schnell reagiert haben, waren, wir haben dann auch Masken produziert. Also zu Beginn war ich eigentlich so ein bisschen gegen die Produktion von Masken, auch weil ich gedacht habe, das wäre so eine Defokussierung und ich bin immer so ein Fan von Fokus und irgendwie konzentriere dich auf das, was du gut kannst. Und dann haben wir aber dann im Team, also ich sage jetzt mal, das ganze Team hat sich eigentlich dann dafür ausgesprochen und wir haben dann gefunden, ey, wenn das alle wollen, dann machen wir das und das wurde dann auch mega schnell umgesetzt, war aber dann auch so ein bisschen eine No-Profit-Geschichte. Wir haben also nicht versucht, damit Geld zu verdienen, haben auch eigentlich alles, was wir an Deckungsbeitrag bekommen hätten, hatten wir dann an Caritas weitergegeben. Und für uns war das eigentlich auch so als mehr eine Möglichkeit, auch, um das Momentum zu capturen und auch versuchen, in dem Zeitpunkt so viel Aufmerksamkeit wie möglich zu generieren.
Jetzt ja, als Schweizer KMUs ist ja irgendwie der Markt dann irgendwann mal begrenzt. Jetzt Wachstum ist bei euch, ihr seid noch ein auch junges, zwar erfolgreiches, aber junges Unternehmen. Jetzt wollt ihr aber wachsen. Thema Export. Jetzt, ja, wie ist das eine große Herausforderung? Was habt ihr hier geplant? Also welche Maßnahmen auch? Ich frage das dann auch gleich Sinje. Kann hier vielleicht auch noch was dazu sagen, wie man als Schweizer KMU eben im Ausland, in einem Exportmarkt Deutschland zum Beispiel, Fuß fassen kann?
Jetzt im Kontext zu Corona war das jetzt schon so eine ganz schwierige Situation, weil es im Ausland natürlich ganz andere Maßnahmen gab und da, ich sage jetzt mal, das Umfeld massiv schlechter war jetzt wie in der Schweiz. Also ich glaube, unser großes Glück war, dass wir einen großen Teil unseres Umsatzes in der Schweiz machen und deshalb eigentlich auch nicht so stark betroffen waren. Nichtsdestotrotz stimmt das natürlich, wir wollen ins Ausland gehen und haben da auch schon eigentlich diverse Partner, mit denen wir zusammenarbeiten und machen auch Marketing im Ausland. Aber das war natürlich jetzt in der Zeit sehr, sehr schwer. Und was uns dann auch dazu gebracht hat, nochmal zurückzugehen und zu sagen, hey, was ist denn in der Schweiz noch möglich? Und die Schweiz ist zwar ein kleines Land, aber hat irgendwie trotzdem sehr, sehr kaufkräftige Menschen und das Potenzial ist noch weit nicht ausgeschöpft. Also ich glaube, hier können wir noch weiterhin wachsen, aber im Ausland ist das Umfeld anders und was wir eigentlich wollen im Ausland ist mehr so unser Konzept beweisen, weil der Preispunkt ist da oder die Preissensitivität ist ganz anders im Ausland und die Art und Weise, wie man kommuniziert, ist ganz anders und ich glaube, diese Learnings wollen wir im Ausland erzielen, aber mit Facebook zusammen geht es eigentlich mega gut. Also wir haben da Möglichkeiten, gezielte Kampagnen auf geografische Gebiete zu schalten, dort auch unterschiedliche Creatives gegeneinander laufen zu lassen. Und das ist eigentlich auch so die Vorgehensweise, die wir in Zukunft verfolgen werden.
Eben, jetzt haben wir ja gehört, es sind diverse Innovationen in der Pipeline, jetzt auch Instagram Shopping, wo das immer näher dann jetzt wirklich in die One-App-Lösung hineingeht. Sine, trotzdem möchtest du noch kurz hier was ergänzen zum Thema Export, weil wir ja eine Exportnation sind. Auf Deutschland, glaube ich, über 40 Milliarden exportieren wir beispielsweise. Also irgendwas, gleich kurz eine Ergänzung hierzu.
Ja, gerne. Also die Schweiz ist natürlich ein super spannender Fall. Gerade im Bereich Export, da geht es natürlich auch um die Sprachenvielfalt, ne, die geografische Lage und die Schweiz ist ja unglaublich wirtschaftsstark. Ne? Das heißt, Facebook hat da auch Lösungen entwickelt, hat es schon ein bisschen angesprochen. Zum Beispiel gibt es die Dynamic Language Optimization. Das ist im Prinzip, dass die Sprache dann der Anzeigen angepasst wird von den Spracheinstellungen der Nutzern. Und ich glaube, das meinte schon auch gerade die Multi-Country Lookalike Targeting Option. Das heißt, da kann man dann natürlich die Kunden oder die Nutzer in anderen Ländern finden, die dem Heimatmarkt ähnlich sind und natürlich auch bis zum weltweiten Targeting hin. Ich möchte auch noch mal vielleicht eine Idee reinbringen. Es gibt auch FMPs, das sind Facebook-Marketing-Partner, die auch helfen, gerade in dem Bereich Export mit Lösungen zum Thema Logistik, Shipping, Payment und auch Steuern natürlich zu kommen. Und vielleicht eine Idee, PostFinance hat auf ihrer Webseite richtig gut zusammengefasst, in welche Länder die Schweiz exportiert. Da sind zum Beispiel die Top 3 Deutschland, Amerika und China, aber auch vor allem, was für Güter exportiert werden. Ihr Schweizer wisst es bestimmt am allerbesten, aber vor allem die chemisch-pharmazeutischen, dann Edelmetalle, Schmucksteine, aber dann natürlich auch Uhren und Präzisionsinstrumente. Also sehr, sehr spannend, da vielleicht mal reinzuschauen. Und definitiv ein spannender Markt für Export, auf jeden Fall.
Sinje, du bist Passweltmeisterin. Du hast mir nämlich schon wieder Stichworte zugespielt, die ich aufnehmen kann für unseren nächsten Talk-Gast, und zwar Schmuck, habe ich da irgendwann mitgehört. Und damit kommen wir zu, jetzt muss ich schauen, zu Thomas Prantl von Gübelin. Ich drehe mir die Frage mit Gübelin ist aber schon Gübelin.
Gübelin, Schweizer Unternehmen.
Gübelin, genau. Und eigentlich ich muss mir auf die Zeit schauen natürlich, aber ja, in die Speed-Question-Frage kann ich mich nicht verkneifen, weil man hat schon kurz gehört, du bist Österreicher, wenn es mir recht ist. Und oder? Das ist schon so, oder?
Ja, genau, Tiroler.
Und eigentlich war ja meine Frage, eigentlich wäre meine Frage gewesen, bist du jetzt als Österreicher eben eher für die Schweiz oder für Deutschland im Turnierverlauf? Aber die Frage hat sich jetzt seit gestern quasi erübrigt. Also hoffe ich dann, dass du für die Schweiz
es ist ein Wechselbad der Gefühle, weil meine Frau ist Britin.
Okay, gut.
Gestern habe ich mir gedacht, wenn die Deutschen noch ein Tor schießen würden, wäre auch nicht so schlecht, aber ich musste dann beigeben und mitfeiern. Aber als Österreicher natürlich habe ich auch mitgefeiert, mitgefiebert gegen Italien und habe dann aber sehr viel gefeiert mit den Schweizern, mit dem Schweizer Team. Wir hatten unser erstes reales Vertriebsmeeting wieder und waren alle zusammen in Luzern unterwegs. War sensationell, ja, absolut.
Super, jetzt gerade zum Start eben Gübelin möchte ich mal kurz zurückgehen in die Vorfußballzeit sozusagen, 1854. Das ist die Gründerzeit, wo der Moritz Breitschmidt in Gübelin gegründet hat. Jetzt, wie würdest du ihm die Blockchain erklären, eure Blockchain-Strategie, die ihr als Gübelin in Betrieb habt?
Ja, also damals zur Gründerzeit war das Juweliersgeschäft, das Uhrengeschäft, ein sehr exklusives, auf Vertrauen basierendes, das hat sich ja nichts geändert. Aber von der Produktseite her was sehr auf Qualität, dass es funktionstüchtig ist, dass die Uhr auch richtig läuft, tout juste. Und das sind auch so Elemente, die wir in unserer Kultur übernommen haben. Heute aber haben wir einen Kunden, der will wissen, woher die Dinge kommen. Ja, der will auch wissen, wie etwas entsteht. Wie Sinja schon gesagt hat, ja, fast so diese Co-Creation. Also die hätten am liebsten ein Filmteam bei uns im Atelier in Luzern und schauen unserer Designerin über die Schulter, wie sie die Gouachen zeichnet. Und das tun wir auch so. Und der Konsument, der will heute wissen, was sein Kaufentscheid bewirkt. Und wenn man jetzt an die Blockchain für die Gemological Industry auch denkt, die wollen vom Anfang an wissen, woher etwas kommt. Und idealerweise können wir dann auch sagen, was es bewirkt, auch vielleicht für eine kleine Mining-Community in Madagaskar. Ja, und idealerweise habe ich das digital, sehr intrinsisch, sehr subtil, sehr auch unverrückbar in der Blockchain dokumentiert. Und natürlich stehen wir da erst am Anfang, aber wir haben diese Blockchain für die ganze Industrie als freie Blockchain auch entwickelt und haben jetzt schon Hunderttausende von einzelnen Steinen hochgeladen bekommen. Da hat es auch einen Tipping Point gegeben vor 1-2 Monaten, wo es auf einmal wirklich nach oben ging, wo große Players, Minen, Cutters einsteigen. Und das ist schon spannend, wie wir da als Traditionshaus aus Luzern auch mit Innovation und digitalen Innovationen auch in dieser weltweiten Nische der Color Gemstones unterwegs sind.
Ich finde das ein wunderschöner sorry.
Ja, dem Moritz würde ich sagen, ja, wir kümmern uns um die Konsumenten, deren Bedürfnisse, die wollen einfach wissen, woher es kommt und wollen das Vertrauensthema auch haben, die wollen sich gut dabei fühlen und das wird ganz intuitiv digital dann auch kommuniziert.
Ja, das ist ja diese digitale DNA, die man auf den ersten Blick jetzt bei einem Unternehmen im Übrigen gar nicht vermuten würde. Und dann kommt irgendwie die Blockchain und man sagt sich eben ein unglaubliches Reservoir an Geschichten auch, das sich hier eröffnet. Jetzt ein Nachfolger des Gründers, der aktuelle CEO Raphael Güberlin aus der Familie Güberlin, der hat ja irgendwie mal sozusagen die E-Mails abgeschafft, um ein weiteres sichtbar zu machen, wie innovativ ihr seid und auch wie gut, das ist ja bei euch der Punkt, wie gut ihr eben auch vorbereitet waren, als es dann letztes Jahr einschlug. Ja, keine E-Mails mehr, was macht ihr dann?
Also das war ja radikal, wie letztes Jahr auch uns das getroffen hat. Auch Touristenströme, Flugzeuge, Busse sind nicht mehr gekommen. Und wir hatten schon vorher, also vor 3 Jahren, gut Facebook für Firmen eingeführt, also Workplace. Und da gab es damals sehr viele Leute, die gesagt haben, ui, darf man da überhaupt was posten? Darf man da Information posten, die geheim ist, die nur fürs Unternehmen ist? Und da hatten wir sehr viele Widerstände intern. Aber das Ziel war quasi, dass wir weg von den E-Mails kommen und dass wir bildorientiert, teamorientiert, projektorientiert, nach Kunden auch orientiert arbeiten. Und ich muss sagen, dadurch, dass wir das hatten, konnten wir im ersten Lockdown auch super mit unseren Mitarbeitern kommunizieren. Vom ersten Tag an, und da ist fast nichts auf E-Mail-Basis mehr geschehen. Und ich persönlich habe gesagt, ich schreibe keine E-Mails, ich initiiere kein E-Mail, gibt es nicht mehr von mir. Und ich drucke auch nichts aus. Ich weiß gar nicht, wie ich was drucken sollte in der Firma. Also das sind so meine 2 Dinge, wo ich sage, ich möchte ganz anders kommunizieren, viel direkter und mit den Medien, die wir heute haben und so wirklich als Vorbild auch nach vorne zu gehen. Und das macht Raphael Güberlin genauso. Und das hat uns jetzt in der ersten Phase sehr viel an Agilität gebracht. Wir haben auch umgeschaltet auf tägliche Board-Meetings quasi in der Früh am Anfang, Weekly Post an die ganze Mitarbeiterschaft, Polls von Anfang an gesetzt, dass jeder mitentscheiden konnte. Und gerade wie wir jetzt Jahresgespräche hatten, 1 Jahr danach haben manche in meinem Team gesagt, sie erkennen die Firma nicht mehr wieder. Im Positiven.
Okay. Jetzt eben auch bei euch wieder, man spürt diese Agilität einfach enorm wichtig, eben dieses Umschaltmomentum, schnell umschalten können, jetzt wieder in der Fußballsprache, eben sich Räume öffnen, hier vorzustoßen. Jetzt eben, du hast schon etwas angetönt, die Rolle der digitalen Kanäle. Jetzt ein Begriff, den du mir auch im Vorfeld zugespielt hast, ist super local. Und den fand ich mega spannend, weil es darum geht, ja irgendwie auf etwas zu fokussieren. Jetzt vielleicht kurz noch dieser Begriff, das super local erklärt.
Ja, das Super Local ist für mich jetzt nach 15 Monaten das, was bei uns funktioniert. Das heißt, sind die Geschäfte geschlossen, trauen sich die Kunden nicht zu uns gekommen, fährt der Geschäftsführer von der Boutique Zürich an den Zürichberg und zeigt die Schmuckstücke oder die Uhren. Super Local, ja, ganz spezifisch, ganz persönlich. Ja. Und das Gleiche, kommen chinesische VIPs nicht mehr zu uns, bauen wir die Brücke nach China. Wir haben eine Firma in Shanghai gegründet im Lockdown. Ich war nie dort, habe die ganze Logistik dort hingebaut und jetzt beliefern wir sogar ein norwegisches Cruise-Ship, das jetzt im Hafen in Shenzhen liegt, inzwischen unter chinesischer Flagge fährt und nur im chinesischen Binnenmarkt unterwegs sein wird. Und wer ist der Juwelier dort? Güberin. Super local. We come to you.
Super, das ist eine total spannende Geschichte. Jetzt vielleicht noch eben auch der Dialog untereinander jetzt bei euch, wenn du jetzt dem Sean für seines Hack noch einen Tipp geben kannst für den Export, dann würdest du ihm sagen, nee, geht irgendwie mit einem Bus auf Tour oder was ist da dein Tipp, deine Erfahrung im Export?
Also ich würde sagen, geh doch in einen Markt rein, der ähnlich wie die Schweiz ist. Wo es vielleicht viele graue Socken gibt und viele graue Mäuse, aber viel Geld. Did you think of Singapore? Also,
Sean, habt ihr mal an Singapur gedacht?
Geh wirklich wohin, was ähnlich ist, wo das Geschäftsmodell geht und geh nicht in den Markt rein, der schon übersättigt ist und vom Preiskampf dominiert ist.
Super Input. Nee, Singapur habe ich noch nie gedacht, ehrlich gesagt. Aber guter Input. Also ist auf jeden Fall ein Test wert.
Genau, und wir haben ja jetzt die Sprachoptimierungsmöglichkeiten. Da sollte auch also eben, wenn da Facebook das Versprechen hält, dann sollte das ja kein Hindernis sein, dass du da irgendwie, dass das auch gut übersetzt wird in Echtzeit. Ja, ich würde dann gerne gleich, wir sind 11.44 Uhr, ich muss irgendwie wieder auf die Uhr schauen, wie in einem Fußballspiel irgendwie. Wir sind noch nicht ganz in der Verlängerung, aber es geht doch jetzt langsam in die 80. Minute so gefühlt irgendwie. Und das war eine gute Zeit für die Schweiz am Montag, hoffentlich jetzt auch für uns bestimmt. Zeit ist auch das Thema. Ich habe mir da für Jonas Kiefer von der Bank Wir den Übertitel genommen für mich 24 Hours. Jetzt gibt es den Film 48 Hours, vielleicht kennen der einige noch, ist im Jahr 1982, aber eben die Bank Wir ist eine Community-Bank und das passt natürlich sehr gut irgendwie in die Social Media Welt hinein. Jonas Kiefer, vielleicht kurz, Bank Wir, kurz erklärt, euer Businessmodell.
Ja, gerne. Also Thomas und ich vertreten ja ein wenig die Firmendinos hier in der Runde. Wir sind 1934 gegründet worden, mitten in der Weltwirtschaftskrise. Haben eigentlich Unternehmer eine Lösung gegen die Geldhortung gesucht, ein akutes Problem zu dieser Zeit. Und die Lösung war dann Wir, also eine eigene Komplementärwährung, die so in der Form eigentlich bis heute Bestand hat. Die KMU als Zahlungsmittel akzeptieren, noch bis heute, und dementsprechend ist dieser Teil eigentlich das stärkste KMU-Netzwerk der Schweiz. Und auf der anderen Seite haben wir aber auch ein klassisches Schweizer Frankengeschäft, noch nicht so lange. Wir sind zwar schon lange Bank, aber das Schweizer Frankengeschäft ist noch nicht so alt bei uns. Und da bieten wir natürlich klassisch auch Privatkunden unsere Produkte zu Top-Konditionen an.
Jetzt seid ihr ein Binnenmarktunternehmen. Ich glaube, irgendwie Export ist nicht so das Thema bei euch, ist richtig, oder?
Nein, wir sind operativ nur in der Schweiz tätig.
Genau, also im Binnenmarkt, und der ist ja nicht so zusammengekracht jetzt, der hat sich eigentlich recht gut gehalten. Jetzt dennoch, vor welche Herausforderung hat euch die Pandemie gestellt?
Gut, da muss man ein bisschen trennen, mich als Marketeer und die Bank. Die Bank hat vor die Herausforderung gestellt, zum Beispiel mit den Covid-Krediten, aber natürlich auch im Umgang mit unseren KMU-Kunden, die es natürlich je nach Branche sehr hart getroffen hat. Und auf der anderen Seite mich als Marketeer. Wir haben uns von einmal in der Kürze in 100% Homeoffice wiedergefunden. Das war doch ein paar Tage ein wenig ungewohnt. Dadurch, dass wir aber diesen Always-On-Ansatz schon hatten, war das jetzt auch nicht so, dass bei uns gerade alle Dämme über den Haufen geworfen wurden. Aber was uns doch getroffen hat, ist die ganze Kampagnenplanung, die es natürlich rund um diesen Always-On-Ansatz gab. Die war natürlich völlig für die Katz. Es bringt nichts, Plakate zu machen, wenn niemand mehr draußen ist. Um ein kleines Beispiel zu nennen. Und da standen wir schon von heute auf morgen ohne Planung in diesem Bereich eigentlich da.
Okay, jetzt habe ich vorhin den Film 48 Stunden aus 1982 mit Nick Nolte und Eddie Murphy angesprochen. Vielleicht einige von euch kennen, er war ein absoluter Klassiker in dieser Zeit. Ihr habt es aber in nur 24 Stunden geschafft. Erzähl uns über dieses ganz spezielle Umschaltmoment zusammen stark. Eine wunderbare Kampagnengeschichte, wie ich finde.
Du hättest 24 nehmen sollen von Kiefer Sutherland. Der hat ja wenigstens ein wenig Namensverwandtschaft mit mir. Wir haben uns im Homeoffice überlegt, was wir jetzt machen und haben zusammen entschieden, dass wir all unsere Kanäle komplett unseren KMU-Kunden, aber auch nicht KMU-Kunden, also eigentlich allen KMUs zur Verfügung stellen und haben die Content-Aktion zusammen stark gegründet, haben einen Newsticker gemacht auf unserem Blog, wo KMU proaktiv ihre Angebote während des Lockdowns oder spezielle Aktionen und Ideen einsenden konnten. Und wir haben die publiziert und teilweise auch redaktionell noch aufbereitet in Interviewforms auf unserem Blog und haben diese Geschichten dann über unsere Social-Media-Kanäle publiziert. Und natürlich war es dann auch Content Promotion, das wir darüber gemacht haben. Das ging wirklich so weit, dass wir auch Speisekarten von Takeaways, von lokalen Restaurants publiziert und beworben haben. Gab auch sehr spezifische Aktionen, wie zum Beispiel eine Live-Online-Weindegustation, wo man im Vorfeld Weinpakete sich bestellen konnte und dann so über Facebook Live an einer Degustation teilnehmen. Also die Bandbreite war extrem offen und wir haben eigentlich in der Zeit unsere Kanäle komplett den KMU zur Verfügung gestellt, um so irgendwo Plattform bieten zu können. Selbstverständlich hat uns der Always-On-Ansatz da eben spezifisch geholfen, weil wir natürlich auch schon alle relevanten Zielgruppen haben, damit es natürlich auch KMU-technisch dann an die richtigen Leute geht.
Jetzt habt ihr eine unglaubliche Agilität auf den Platz gebracht. Jetzt, wo ist euch das sonst noch hilfreich? Ich denke eben, wir haben jetzt gehört, all diese neuen Dinge, die kommen, jetzt auch eben nur schon bei Facebook, aber es betrifft immer dann auch viele andere Social-Media-Kanäle. Jetzt, wie ist hier so die Time to Market bei euch? Also wenn ihr jetzt irgendwie etwas Neues seht, zum Beispiel Real Ads, ich weiß gar nicht, ob es jetzt schon gibt in der Schweiz, kann vielleicht nachher kurz die Sinne noch sagen, aber jetzt gibt es die Real Ads, oder? Jetzt adoptiert ihr das dann so oft, oder das ist häufig auch eine Frage, oder? Soll ich etwas zuwarten, bis hier mehr Erfahrungen gesammelt sind, oder soll ich hier gleich reingehen? Was ist da etwa eure Philosophie?
Das ist äußerst unterschiedlich. Also ich kann das Lead-Ad als Beispiel nehmen. Das haben wir, glaube ich, gefühlt nach Einführung sofort getestet und seither auch nie mehr gestoppt. Ich glaube aber, was wichtig ist zum Verständnis ist, wir arbeiten ohne Werbeagentur. Wir haben uns von diesem Modell mit einer fixen Agentur zu arbeiten vor 2 Jahren verabschiedet. Genau aus Agilitätsgründen. Das heißt, wir sind eigentlich die Nummer 58 der Schweizer Bankenwelt. Aber wahrscheinlich die kleinste, die national tätig ist. Und dementsprechend ist Agilität eigentlich ein bisschen unser Heimvorteil. Wir können einfach viel, viel schneller auch inhaltlich auf Dinge reagieren, durch das wir die Creatives selbst herstellen, durch das wir Herr unserer eigenen Ideen sind, kann Nicolas Plan mit den 5 Content Marketeers so zu 100% nachvollziehen. Und ich glaube, aus dieser Agilität raus entstehen eben auch Chancen, die man schnell nutzen kann. Und das ist halt als Nummer 58 wichtiger, wenn man dementsprechend auch nicht das Budget hat, den Markt einfach unglaublich zu bespielen. Das heißt, das gibt halt auch immer wieder Nischen, die man so nutzen kann, aber vor allem gibt es auch die Möglichkeit, extrem optimiert auch Dinge auszuprobieren, ohne dass es große Budgetbeträge gibt und dann die Performance entscheiden zu lassen, ob es richtig oder falsch ist.
Sinje, an dich die Frage, wie wichtig ist es oder wie ist der Impact jetzt von einer Frühadoption von neuen Dingen, die ihr bringt, auf die Performance? Gibt es da bei euch irgendwie Zahl oder irgendwie Erfahrungen, die ihr teilen könnt? Wie wichtig ist das generell? Ermunterst du dazu?
Ja, definitiv. Also Zahlen habe ich in dem Sinne nicht, aber ich finde anhand von allen Beispielen, die wir heute gehört haben, ist wirklich wichtig, ich muss mich hier mal auf den Simon Sinek beziehen, von dem habe ich vor kurzem einen tollen Podcast gehört, und zwar das Infinite, also das unbegrenzte Mindset, und gerade in Covid wurde das natürlich unglaublich wichtig. Das heißt, man heißt Überraschungen willkommen und man findet Möglichkeiten in dem Neuen. Also zum Beispiel beginnt das Denken hier ganz von vorne und ganz unbegrenzt. Zum Beispiel als Covid zuschlug, haben wir gesehen, man konnte sofort erkennen, wer in Panik gerät und wer sich vielleicht nur auf alte Muster bezogen hat und vor allem, wer aus der Krise auch eine Chance gemacht hat. Und was können wir Neues finden in dieser Krise oder wie können wir uns auch neu definieren? Und ich denke, dass da ganz wichtig ist, alle möglichen Social-Media-Kanäle auch mit einzubinden, vielleicht ein Beispiel aus der Vergangenheit, und ich hoffe, es bleibt auch in der Vergangenheit, ist zum Beispiel, als der Lockdown da war, gab es einen Fahrradladen, der natürlich keine Kunden in den Laden lassen konnte. Die haben dann vor dem Laden die Fahrräder repariert oder auch über WhatsApp dann mit ihren Kunden kommuniziert, vielleicht Tipps, wie man es auch selbst regeln kann. Und das hält natürlich auch die Kundenbeziehungen sehr stark. Und daher, ich kann das nur betonen, diese Agilität ist unglaublich wichtig. Man sieht es nicht nur in den großen Tech-Companies, die sehr agil sind und sehr gut mit Change Management umgehen. Man muss es auch für sich selbst anwenden. Und da kann ich wirklich nur diesen Simon Sinek Podcast empfehlen, dass sich jeder den mal anhört.
Ja, Simon Sinek ist sehr interessant, diesen Circle gemacht, wo sagt, dass im Innersten geht es eben um einen Purpose, also um weshalb macht man was, den Zweck, und da haben wir jetzt ja wunderschöne Geschichten auch gehört. Ich möchte dich noch mit einem Satz, mit einem Zitat konfrontieren von Jonas, das er mir im Vorinterview gegeben hat, den ich sehr spannend finde. Wenn wir die Leute zuerst über den Content gewinnen, dann haben wir später in der Vermarktung, im Retargeting die geringeren Lead-Kosten. Also das ist ja eigentlich etwas, dieses Related zwischen eben dem Content, der guten Geschichte und der Performance. Kannst du das so bestätigen?
Definitiv. Ich glaube, es wurde auch schon in der Stunde vorher angesprochen, Creative ist unglaublich wichtig und einfach die Relevanz. Ne? Wenn ich was in meinem Newsfeed sehe, was für mich kaum Relevanz hat, dann scrolle ich auch weiter. Und wir sagen immer noch, man muss den Daumen natürlich zum Stoppen bringen, weil man scrollt ja am Tag ein paar Kilometer mit seinem Daumen. Das heißt, da muss man einfach schauen, dass der Content wirklich relevant ist. Und dann, wenn er relevant ist, hat man natürlich auch die relevante Zielgruppe, die dann hoffentlich zu einer Conversion oder Leadkosten oder was auch immer führt und das natürlich dann alles effizienter macht.
Sehr gut. Jetzt, ja, wir sind 55, also wir sind jetzt dann langsam in der Nachspielzeit. Ich weiß nicht, was der Schiedsrichter angegeben hat, vielleicht 4 Minuten. Ist immer so eine Sache mit der Nachspielzeit, je nachdem, wenn man eben natürlich in Führung ist, wie man den Schlusspfiffen herbei. Andersrum ist es umgekehrt. Ich hoffe, dass Sie alle den Schlusspfiff herbei sehen. Dennoch möchte ich eine Schlussrunde machen mit der Frage, und zwar: Die Schweiz schlug Frankreich mit 5-4 Penaltyschießen. Das Ergebnis wird uns bestimmt lange Zeit in Erinnerung bleiben. Jetzt, welches ist euer Ergebnis aus dieser Zeit, das euch sehr lange in Erinnerung bleiben wird? Irgendwie eine Erfolgszahl oder was auch immer. Und ich möchte die Frage wieder quasi an den Anfang zurückgehen und dir, Daniela, die stellen. Was ist so eine Zahl, die du jetzt verbindest mit dieser Zeit?
Ja, also für mich ist es ganz klar die 20. Ich glaube, das Jahr 20 war ein sehr lernreiches, aber auch challenging Jahr. Und wir konnten unsere Facebook-Insta-Community um rund 20% erhöhen. Und somit passt das hier ganz gut rein. Und ich glaube, die 20 ist's.
Nicolas, bei euch?
Bei uns sind es eben, glaube ich würde sagen, vielleicht 50.000 für die Spende, die wir gemacht haben. Das ist das, was mir sicherlich lange in Erinnerung bleibt.
Sean? Deine Zahl?
Meine Zahl wäre die 5. Und zwar gab es über eine ziemlich lange Zeit einen Return on Ad Spend von 5, den wir erhalten konnten, was für uns schon sehr überdurchschnittlich ist. Und das ist uns dann auch geblieben.
Dann mache ich jetzt eine Umweg über Signe. 5, er hat eine Zahl, ein Ad-Spend, das ist ja der von 5. Was hast du für eine Zahl, Signe?
Ich möchte vielleicht eine ganz andere Zahl sagen, und zwar ist meine Zahl 50.000. Und zwar musste ich gerade bei Daniela genauer auch zuhören, weil hier, ich bin ja in Dublin, gibt es natürlich von Facebook auch ein Data Center und wir haben da verschiedene Bienenstöcke und pro Bienenstock haben wir 50.000 Bienen, um natürlich auch hier den Communities zu helfen, die Bienen wieder zurückzubringen. Und daher ist 50.000 meine Zahl.
Super, Bienen, 50.000, wunderbar. Thomas Brandl, bei dir?
Ja, ich würde 2030 sagen, weil wir sind mit irrsinnigem Speed jetzt digital nach vorne gekommen und sind jetzt im Jahr 2030 angekommen durch diese Krise. Wir konnten in der Firma viele Dinge nach vorne treiben, die sicher 7, 8, 9 Jahre gebraucht hätten, wenn diese Krise nicht da gewesen wäre.
Also du denkst echt, das ist dieser Faktor quasi, das ist das ist ja, so unglaublich. Also das ist schon zeigt, was das bewegt hat, auch bei aller Tragik natürlich dieser Situation, dieser Pandemie. Jonas Kiefer, deine Zahl, Bank 4?
Bei mir wären es 600.000. Das sind die Anzahl erreichter Personen, die wir über Zusammen stark für unsere Kunden und für andere KMU erreichen durften.
Sehr gut, jetzt gehe ich mal hinschauen noch. Ja, Q&A-Fragen. Ich glaube, wir sind jetzt bei 58 anbelangt. Ich möchte mich an dieser Stelle sehr herzlich bedanken für die wirklich spannenden Insights. Und ich glaube, die zuvor, die um 9 Uhr begonnen haben, zuzuhören, teilzunehmen, mit all diesen Insights, das jetzt eigentlich kombiniert mit dem, was wir gehört haben, eben die Wichtigkeit dieser Agilität, die Wichtigkeit auch von Geschichten, oder die Wichtigkeit, die schnelle Reaktionszeit. Ich glaube, dass dieses Umschaltspiel, ich glaube, das ist eine sehr gute Kombination, eben wenn wir auch sehen, was da alles in der Pipeline ist, jetzt bei Facebook, oder ich betone auch immer bei anderen Social Media natürlich, also generell einfach all diese neuen Chancen eben gut nutzen zu können. Ich möchte jetzt zum Abschluss, übergebe ich dir, Sine, das Wort für den Abschluss des gesamten Vormittags.
Danke, Bert, und auch lieben Dank, dass du das moderiert hast und so gut vor allem moderiert hast. Es ist mal wieder spannend, von vielen Unternehmen zu hören. Ich fand, es war ein sehr, sehr spannender Morgen. Jin hat mit den Facebook-Mythen und Fakten angefangen zu teilen, zum Beispiel, dass in der Schweiz mehr als 3 Millionen Schweizer in einer Facebook-Gruppe aktiv sind. Dann als zweites ist die erste Schweizer Dynamic Language Optimization Impact Studie gelauncht worden und hat natürlich auch outperformed, was sehr gut zu sehen ist. Dann haben wir sehen können, dass Schweizer Händler auf eine Cyber-Rekordwoche sich einstellen können. Und vor allem haben wir auch gezeigt, wie Facebook und Instagram dabei helfen kann. Und jetzt zuletzt natürlich für mich auch ein spannender Teil, die KMU-Runde. Und ich finde, diese Diskussion hat gezeigt, was für eine Innovationskraft in den Schweizer SMBs steckt und vor allem mit Agilität zum Erfolg zu führen. Und das möchte ich nochmal betonen. Man muss einfach ein agiles Mindset haben, ob es eine Pandemie ist, hoffentlich kommt keine mehr, aber durch sämtliche Veränderungen zu schaffen. Und da möchte ich mich ganz herzlich auch bei allen bedanken, vor allem bei dir, Beat, für die Moderation und wünsche allen noch einen schönen Mittwoch. Lieben Dank. Und dann, genau, bevor ich es vergesse, gibt es noch den QR-Code. Alice hat es vorhin auch schon mitgeteilt. Das heißt, wenn es Feedback gibt zu unserer Session, bitte den QR-Code jetzt scannen und Feedback hinterlassen, damit wir diese Serie auch noch besser machen können und einfach wissen, was hat euch gefallen, was können wir verbessern. Also gerne diesen QR-Code jetzt scannen und das Feedback hinterlassen. Lieben Dank. Bis bald.